Okay.
Are you introing or am I introing?
I didn't know. Was that discussed beforehand? Okay. Well, anyway, so this is episode. Sorry. Welcome to episode 38 of the Clutch Kick. I am one of your hosts, EG, and today above me, I think, is that right? Is Greg.
Yeah, you're above mine.
Okay, cool. All right, so we got it matched up properly this time between YouTube and Facebook. And our guest for today is Jack Shanahan from Ireland. Um, so where do
He's
we
from Brisbane.
begin? Brisbane. Oh yeah, he's from Brisbane, isn't he?
Yeah, he's moved into the car theft game.
Are we actually going to talk about any progress with your?
Nah.
No. Okay.
Any progress? Yeah, nah, not really. Some stuff was recovered on Friday last week. I just have no shell or trailer, and I don't know what else is missing. The police haven't released any parts to me yet, so I'm just sitting here depressed. So
yeah,
just gonna keep wanting to hang myself.
At the moment, I think you're taking monetary donations to try and get back into drifting.
Well, yeah, and I'm probably as good at driving now as I was when I had a car. So just now, hey, but like they've basically broken it down for me. So instead of trailering a car that doesn't work to events, now I can just trailer parts. Well, I can't trailer parts because they took that too. But yeah, there's a lot to talk about it. Let's move on.
Okay, cool.
I don't think a whole lot happened in the last week of world drifting. The only thing I think that I saw going on was last round of BDC.
Yep.
And our guest's little brother drove his first event without his big brother around.
I think so.
And another Aussie decided to hit Phil in a Driftworks car. I don't know if you saw that, EG. I did not understand a word you just said.
I said it seemed to be the common thing.
Yeah, it does seem pretty common. I think Luke's hit him before. Alex from Victoria drove his S13 over the top of him at Driftland, and I think Michelana smacked the crap out of him at last weekend's event. So it seems pretty common for Phil to get beaten up by Aussies.
I didn't see very much of it, actually. I saw qualifying, that's about it. But I didn't actually start and watch the battles.
No. Did you stay up, Jack?
I tried to stay up. I set an alarm on my phone. I was at another few Irish guys' house, and then my phone died, and we all fell asleep and didn't wake up. So we all watched qualifying, and that was it. So,
see, this is what we cop as Aussies. That's what we get. I don't even know how Connor ended up doing in that round.
He got to the top 8 against Dwayne McGeever, and he had an electrical problem and all the power steering and stuff shut, and he couldn't transition. So he ended up spinning and getting knocked out. But I think he had the battle lost anyway. Couldn't really keep up with Dwayne, so not too sure.
Who took out that championship? Was that Dwayne both championships?
Yeah. He was the first person to get the Irish and British Championship in 1 year. So,
well, kind of. Didn't your family have both in the same year?
Oh yeah, well, like we won pro and semi-pro in 1 year.
Okay.
But I came both years. I won the British Championship. I came second in the IDC, and then the year I won the IDC, I came second in BDC. So, yeah, he just got the.
Just keeps getting there. All right. Yeah. So, I guess while we have you, and we're lucky enough to have you in Australia for a couple more weeks, even though you'll probably do what you did the last time you were here and just stay indefinitely. Give us a little bit of a rundown. I think you took sort of the internet. You were the first of the brothers to take the internet by storm with being one of the youngest drifters in the world. Competitive pro drifters, and then your brothers sort of come in behind you and done similar things. What's the family background in motorsport, and what attracted you to drifting in the first place?
So basically, when I was like, I've been driving like literally all my life. When I was like 5 years old, my dad like customized a Ford Fiesta for me to learn to drive in, and we were like racing around the fields and stuff for a good few years. And then when I was about 9, we decided to build my first hot rod car, and we were like faking date of births and all that kind of stuff just so I could compete.
Shit.
Um, so yeah, I was meant to be 14 when I was 10, and obviously being a big kid all my life, I was able to pass as a 14-year-old. So we went and we were winning a couple of races, and then we decided to do like a proper ORCI championship. So it's like an Irish like stock car championship thing. And I done 5 days in the junior class of that, and I got kicked out of that because I kept winning all the races, and I had to race with the men from when I was 10 years old. So it's kind of always been a kind of up and beyond thing for me to be competing against people that were older than me. Um, and then, so like the interest of hot rod and all that kind of stuff was from my parents because my dad and mother used to do it, and my dad used to rally and stuff. So my dad's been racing since he was 16. My mum has been racing since she was probably about 23 or 4 as well. She was the only Irish woman to win the national championships in England on like dirt oval racing. So it's kind of like similar style to speedway that you guys have over here.
Yeah.
So it's we all kind of have big accomplishments throughout the family. Not really too sure where it turned to drifting. It was kind of me and Tomas Kiley. We were racing against each other, and we always loved Jack cars, like Skylines and S bodies and all that kind of stuff. And we just Tomas's dad had got a BMW into the yard. It was a 318 IS, and we decided that we were going to weld a diff in it, and we were going to bolt the spoiler on, and we were going to paint the side skirts black because we thought that was the cool thing to do. And we went to this like a track day, kind of doing donuts and trying to skid the car, whatever. And then Tomas's dad told my dad that I was good, and then I ended up spending all of my community money, all the birthday money that I had saved, and we bought a 180SX. And then the next day, because James Dean is my neighbour, he came over and he decided that we would do a couple of simple upgrades to a 180, and then that led to about 3 or 4 days on track before it had 500 horsepower, and I was going competing for my first semi-pro championship. So I ended up being a really, really poor kid because I used to be like a terror. I used to always save my money and all, and I had like about €3,000 saved up in my like dresser at the side of the bed, and about 5 months into knowing James Dean pretty well, I had no money. So that's kind of how my drifting started. And then we done a first year of like a amateur championship where I came second in the championship, and then moved on to the pro drift at the time, and done one event for the last round because I was just eligible at 13. And then when I was 13 going 14 in the year 2013, I won the semi-pro championship, and I also travelled around Europe doing the Drift All-Stars, where I got top 5 in Europe and that. So it kind of just really took off really, really fast. So, and then that's kind of how it all started, I guess.
So the stock car racing, that was dirt oval from the beginning?
No, I used to race on tarmac, so
Okay.
like tarmac or concrete track.
Yeah.
We had one like a proper quarter-mile oval, with like the concrete wall all around, crazy fast. It was all about trying to be as tight as you could to a line and trying
Yeah.
to be going as straight as possible. So it was a big kind of a change. And obviously, when you're racing, you never want to let go of steering wheel and stuff. And the adaptability from racing to drifting, it was kind of like you hadn't the fear of speed, but you had the fear of actually like doing your own thing in the car rather than just following a line. Excuse me.
Yeah, but still definitely a good base to start with just basic car
Mhm.
control, acceleration, and trying to maintain speed. Especially, I would imagine in them be really similar to, to a go-kart, where if you sort of get out of the power band, then it's really lazy to get back up and sort of keep pace with everybody else.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing. So like when Connor started racing, he'd done about two years of racing, and then he went to kart racing. So he had the best of both worlds, you know. He had the kind of close to the ground and fast, and he also drove the micros as well. But he was never as good as me in the micros, and we weren't expecting to be as good as he was when he went to drifting. So it was he made the change a bit easier than I did, I think, because he was much younger as well, so he kind of didn't realize what was going on when we were telling him what to do. So
Did you kind of start on a sim or anything beforehand, or was he straight into a car into drifting? Because I know you guys do a little bit of sim stuff.
well, he with the hot rod and stuff, like the stock car, he just went straight into that. But then he done his like first 2 track days, like 2 like drift sessions when he was 9 years of age. So pretty young. We didn't have simulators then.
Yeah.
And then while we were building him his first BMW, so it was just an M3 BMW compact, he had got a simulator at that point, and he had done probably, I'd say, 1,000 hours on the simulator, and then just went out on track and absolutely smashed it. Like, you know, so I think having the stock car simulator and then actually going to drifting, it like worked unbelievable, like, you know, for his stepping stones.
Yeah, it was interesting because I had seen a little bit recently of him on the simulator, and I know that there are a lot of guys using them now, but he's sort of in that, and I guess even yourself, you're not that old yet. That's sort of a generational thing where you've got access to that sort of stuff. But if you're a poor drifter, thanks to James Dean already, I can't imagine you're out buying fancy computers or anything at 15.
No, I wasn't. I was always kind of I kind of had a practice car most of the time when I had a pro car. So I was able to go and do the practice days, like with the budget tires and the kind of all the standard stuff. So I was kind of doing for real practicing, as where he just kind of has the simulator in his room and just uses that all the time. Like, I don't really play his simulator. He's just like, you go to bed at night and our rooms are like back to back, and you go to bed at night and all you can hear is the steering wheel going. So yeah, so I think he just enjoys playing it and trying to do different things, and he's getting into the whole like trying to change setups and stuff in the simulator as well. And I don't understand how he understands that there's a difference when he changes stuff on a computer with a car, but yeah, he kind of thinks that there is. So I guess it's kind of good because his mechanical knowledge isn't that great. So at least he's
When you said you had a practice car, I know a lot of people around the world seem to think that Ireland doesn't get a huge amount of practice days. It tends to be that you know, a lot of people have been entering Pro-Am of IDC to actually score a little bit of track time. What sort of practice days and, you know, what sort of locations and stuff like that? Or is it more, as we like to refer to them on the show, you go out for street lamp inspections?
Well, when I was first starting drifting, there was a lot more interest in practice days rather than competition. So basically, there was like every 2 weeks, there was probably a practice day on our local kart track, which is like the Watergrass Hill IDC had around there once.
Yeah.
So like there used to be a track day every 2 weeks, maybe every 3 weeks. There was 2 or 3 different people running track days, so it was much easier, much more accessible for like you to practice drifting like 5 years ago. As we're in recent days, everybody wants to build crazy cars for some reason. I think they kind of think that it's kind of, if I build a crazy car and spend a lot of money, I'm going to just go straight to pro or whatever. They kind of forget the logic that you have to be good at driving, and that starting in a bad car makes you even better in a good car. So, but then with the way people were like taking so much time out of drifting to build good cars, there wasn't exactly an amount of people to do practice days. So people weren't selling out to the spaces and stuff for practice days. And there was one guy doing a really good series, and he had a bit of a championship set up. So it was like an amateur championship with practice days and all that kind of stuff. But life got in the way. He had a kid and stuff, so he had to like pack it up. But then there was nobody there to take over from what he had made a good foundation of, so it kind of all went to waste. But I think next year Dave Egan is starting to do, because we used to have all the heroes, so it was like once a month we used to have a track day in Mandela where they do like clockwise and then anti-clockwise and a couple of different layouts and stuff. And that was kind of people's only like way of getting practice. But with the way Ireland is only one circuit as well, it's kind of hard for us to go to different places where you actually have like higher speeds, whatever, because people do get bored of just doing the normal second gear kind of stuff, like, you know.
Yeah. It's really interesting, and it's a shame that I think people sort of look at it worldwide and think, oh, IDC is one of the pinnacles of drifting in the world. And I think from a series organization point of view and probably viewership, it is a little bit. But when you hear stories like that, and it's like there is not much of a base foundation behind it anymore. It's sort of you're either at the top or there's nothing. So then people go and spend, hundreds of thousands building ridiculous cars when they probably actually aren't sure what they're doing with it.
Yeah, like it's like we have like a really good driving like talent and stuff like throughout the country without a doubt. Like, and there still is the old school drifters, like all the guys that still want to keep it with style, like smaller wheels, smaller tires, all this kind of stuff. Like, but it's kind of they stick to their own side of things and like they do organize their own stuff. But then like that's that kind of stuff that it's not that we don't have an interest in it, because it's still pretty cool that they still want to have the grassroots, that kind of stuff. So it's just that like when we have a pro car, like you can't go and practice in a pro car. So, and then because you have a pro car, you can't really afford to have a practice car either. Especially with the level of the cars that we have these days. So it's a bit of a big difference. So I think it's kind of the fact that if there was more tracks, it would be cheaper, because people wouldn't be, there'd be a bit of competition, like, between tracks and prices and all that kind of stuff, as where it costs quite a bit of money to rent a track for a day and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of the biggest issue, that there's not enough places to have a bit of competition, to have the price cheaper, so people try to run more practice days, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah, same sort of problem that we face here, particularly in our state. You're lucky enough when you're at World Time Attack to be allowed to drive on a circuit that, nobody's been allowed to do a normal practice day on in, I think, probably longer than that, 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, it's been a while since. I think it was the South Circuit event as well was the last one.
Oh yeah, but South was run only a couple of years ago. But yeah, people haven't been allowed to run on that main circuit that you guys ran at World Time Attack for a long time. So
it's only been an exhibition.
So we sort of face the same thing here, and I guess now that you've done the drive from Brisbane to Sydney, you sort of start to get more of a gauge of the distance in the country, and you've done the drive from Melbourne across to Mount Gambier, and even that wasn't even that far. Are you doing the drive from Brisbane to Tassie?
Oh no, we're flying, thank God.
Okay.
I don't think I would have lasted the drive to Tasmania, to be honest. It's like when I first came, I flew to Brisbane, then to Melbourne, then drove to Mount Gambier, and like that took forever, and like we weren't even I was like, oh my God. And I was trying to explain to people when I got home, like the actual, like how big the country is, and they just don't understand. Like, and I was like, you could have all these space there, but I was like, the chances of it being a day away are very high, like, so people don't get it, like until you actually do it. So
yeah, for the amount of space, we've got a lot of facilities we can go to, but yeah, you've got to commit to a trip if you actually want to go and use it. Yeah, you get lucky with places in Brisbane, the fact that Archie's only really close to the city and stuff like that, but not everybody is that lucky, and you sort of get stuck with your one track similar to what you do in Ireland. So before we get on to your all Aussie adventures, this season you competed a partial season or a full season of IDC this year?
Partial. So I only done 3 runs this year.
Yeah. And then you did a full season of Drift Masters Europe?
Yeah, done the full season of that.
Yeah, and so did that end up being your first full season of Drift Masters, or is that something you've done previously, a full season?
No, it was my first time competing in Drift Masters. I had done Drift All Stars and the Drift GP. So they were a European series as well back in 2013, 2014. But then it was my first time competing in the Drift Masters. So it was something new and fresh.
Yeah, and so being your first full season with that, and then having James and Peter being, the big hot things over in the US, and them doing a full season of Drift Masters, sort of what were your take homes from this season being one of your biggest seasons of, I would say, top level pro drifting?
Well, we definitely learned a lot. And with the level of driving, like, my God, to qualify, you're doing well. Like, and that's the honest opinion I have about the Drift Masters, to be honest. Like, the level is absolutely insane. Like, people don't get it just watching live stream. When you're there and you watch practice and you realize you've seen a final battle in the first two laps of practice, you're kind of like, oh my God. Like I remember at the very first round in Plock, the one that Connor won, we were sitting watching because we were late in the bracket of top 32, and we were sitting watching. I think it was two Polish guys in two E30s, and they absolutely killed it. And I just looked at Connor and I was like, oh shit, we're not this good. And like, it was just absolutely insane to think that we were watching second battle in of a top 32 bracket, and we've seen 2-1 more times, and like some of the sickest runs we've ever seen. It was kind of just, it was fascinating to watch, to be honest, and to be part of it was a bigger thing as well, like, so.
And that's, I guess, something a lot of other high-level series are missing. Yeah, there's some good driving in your top 32 in Formula Drift, but I would say it's very rare that you see a one more time or a one more time that's based not off two mistakes. It's normally two mistakes that have caused a one more time, as opposed to that sounded like it was just really clean battles that have led to them having to run them again.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I don't really understand. I think the amount of money it actually costs to run an FD program, because it's such a big place. It's basically like running. It'd be like trying to run a national series in Australia and having it all over the place. Like the cost of transport and all that kind of stuff. And obviously, America isn't exactly the cheapest place to live, so trying to get money and sponsors and all that kind of stuff is obviously still hard when you're in the States. So I think that's why there's not that many like real good drivers. Like there's not 32 drivers that are absolutely insane. Like in my opinion, like they're obviously all good, but like they have their bracket where there's the insane drivers of like the James, Asbo, Forsberg, Peter, like all that kind of them kind of drivers, and then you kind of just there's like one step below that is where the rest of the drivers are, I think, to be honest. So it's it'll be unbelievable to see if drifting could actually like take off, and if you could have a full stacked grid of like 60 drivers competing in Formula Drift, because at the moment there's 60 drivers in the Drift Masters that are absolutely unbelievable, So I think it's just the easier access in Europe. It's a bit cheaper. It's on a smaller scale, like, that kind of thing. So I think that's why people actually tend to have more of a stacked grid when it comes to European drifting.
And some of the tracks aren't nearly as fast as some of the tracks that they're running in Formula Drift either, right? Which sort of brings up the quality. Well, to me, it brings up the quality of the battle, because sort of the speed's a little bit less, but it also means that there's a better opportunity to tuck up in close and have all those sort of crazy things happen. Yeah,
like we've done, I think it was only 2 top of fourth gear entry tracks, and it still wasn't anywhere over 100 mile an hour. And when James came back from Canada, not this season, last season, he was showing me the video of his logs from the ECU, like the GPS. And from when he took off to when he initiated, it was like nearly the same run up of a normal drift track. So like it was just about pulling gears. but like the power and forward traction that they had in the cars, he was getting, I think it was to 95 mile an hour initiating, and like that was probably 100 feet of entry, which is absolutely insane. Like so it's just the level of speed is completely different, and people don't actually understand how fast it is. Like I went to Urin the last season to support them, and I remember going to Thursday's practice and watching Peter doing his initiation onto the bank. And I'm not joking, man. It absolutely scared the shit out of me. I was like, how could you have a pair of balls that big to do what he just done? Like, it's media day. Like, you're not exactly meant to be going to try crash the car. Like, and every run, most of the drivers were doing the exact same thing, There was nobody afraid of it. Like, so, and the speed is like the biggest thing, I think, is that it's massive in comparison to anywhere else.
Yeah. And do you think it's good that it's sort of that it is there somewhere on the planet, but really it should be reserved for, say, a series like that, where if you want to make that budget work, go and run your 295 or your 305 massive sidewall semis and go do that over in FD, and sort of let everybody else on the planet sort of be a step down from that, or a couple of steps down from that, purely from a budget point of view?
Yeah, like obviously nearly every team in FD is a professional race car team. So like the budget, it's not that it's not unlimited, but it is at a fairly high price tag of budgets, like, and it's definitely not cheap by no means. So I think that's kind of another reason why the tracks are bigger, is because Formula Drift know that the teams will follow, and it will make them push more and like have the more power, more grip, all that kind of stuff, like, So I think that's kind of the difference. Like, but when you come to Europe, most of us just have like a normal tow truck or a normal trailer and a camper, and like we're all driving around, we're all trying to find somewhere cheap to stay, all that kind of stuff. Like, the budget is way less when it comes to European drifting.
So with European Drift Masters, are you guys 265 semi restricted?
285.
285?
So, yeah. So
you're not-
it's not.
Go. I was going to say, so you're not that much of a step down, but is that similar to DCA rules and I guess FD as well, where it's based off a curb weight, or your car's weight and then you decide on a tire, or anybody can run up to that size?
Anybody can run up to 285s.
Okay.
So as long as the 285 18, 18 is the biggest wheel size you can have. So that's the only actual rule size that matters. I think, yeah, it's definitely just 285s, like 285s downward. Anybody can run anything in between, like, So
Yeah, so if you decided that you could fit 285s on an 18 under a AE86, you could do it.
yeah, it's allowed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think that it's overkill in some ways? Are you running 285s at every event, or are you changing tire sizes depending on the venue?
No. Like, even with a 285, there's still some guys that are faster with a 265. So obviously there is still some setup keys that are like you can improve on and all that kind of stuff. Like a 265 to a 285 isn't a massive difference. To be honest, I think it's when you go above the 285 is when the grip actually changes dramatically. Because I know James's tires in FD, the 295s are like absolutely ridiculous. Like, like he said, you can fire that thing at 60 mile an hour completely sideways and you're stopped before you know it, like if you don't come back on the throttle. So that's kind of the difference in grip, I think. So,
Yeah, they're also running, I think, at like a 40 or a 45 profile on those massive tires.
Yeah.
Are you guys at a 35, or are you at a 40 on the 285s?
I run 285 35.
Okay,
So
so it's a fairly small sidewall compared to what the guys in FD are running, especially when they sack the pressures down into sort of the low double digits or the single digits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So
Is it something you'd be interested in in comparing, like, would you like to be able to jump onto say a 295 on a big sidewall and drive it just to see how the car reacts differently?
I did drive with a bigger sidewall and a bigger tire. But like my car is 650 horsepower and it didn't have enough power to drive it in properly. So that was a difference. It was kind of, the difference was insane, to be honest. So yeah, there's a massive difference when it comes, like, when you have 800 horsepower, and if you have the responsiveness to drive with a proper 295 or a 305 or whatever, like, the grip difference is absolutely insane. So that's kind of I'd love to actually get to compete in a proper FD car with like a 295 45 with like 900 horsepower, whatever, and just to, like, a light car is definitely more fun to drive, and I reckon that it's a little bit faster as well. With a 265 semi-slick anyway.
Yeah, so that's sort of your ideal for the style that you like, is pretty much weight is king, get as much out of
Yeah.
it as possible, and sort of set up your suspension accordingly to that to get it to do what you want. Yeah, where I think, yeah, a good example for me over in FD is Dai Yoshihara's car, because he's, I think, the only 8.6 running a 305, I'm pretty sure, because he's in that next weight class up, because he didn't take as much out, but yet it's still super competitive with the other guys. But I guess that shows that parity by using the weight to restricted tires. But do you find that in European Drift Masters, having the unrestricted tire rule for anybody to run that tire, and then guys building things like E36s and E30s, like the really old light cars, that they have an advantage because of it, or not really?
Not really, because most of the guys in the Drift Masters actually ran 265s. As far as I'm sure, the top two of the championship ran 265s. So that's kind of what I'm saying. The difference in exact maybe.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously, like, the E30s, I reckon if you had the 285 on them, they would be ridiculously fast. Without a shadow of a doubt, because they're just like, they probably all average weight of like 1150 or 1100 kg, which is like really, really light for a drift car.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that'd be one thing that it probably would make a disadvantage in, if somebody really did start, cutting a car up and making it as light as possible and then running a wide tire. Where I think nobody kind of wants to do it anyway. Like, like everybody in Drift Masters, like we all, like nobody wants to cheat, like, simple as
Yeah.
that. It's kind of, they want it to be as fair as possible. They don't want to be able to pull a massive gap against somebody, or want to be, like, they don't want to go behind somebody and have to drive straight just to be on their door, Like everybody wants even battles, like good style, all that kind of stuff. So I don't think people would go to that level of be a lighter, grippier car, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah. So you've done Irish Drift Championship, British Drift Championship, a bunch of different European Drift Championships. You've been to a number of rounds of FD to support the Irish guys over there, and you've done some driving over here now with,
Yeah.
a couple of fairly grassroots events, plus probably our biggest stage. What do you feel, I guess, is the big culture similarities and big culture differences between a lot of the competitions? Like, what are your favorite ones, the vibes you got in the pits, and what have been the ones that you've had a few things that have sort of, or if there's even been instances where you've thought, I'm not a huge fan of certain things that are going on in the background?
But I think World Time, like, a couple of the cars that I've seen, they have like the FD team program, but like didn't have like all the power or the tire size, But I think it's possible for them to do it pretty easy, because they have the looks and the teams and all that kind of stuff, and you can see the professionality coming out of them, like the way it should be at a professional level. And obviously, when you go to DCA, it's just like you have the likes of Matt Harvey or even Nathan Greenhill now after building the craziest 15, like, it's kind of, you have those guys that will just want to build the massive car just because it's fun to drive. Also, like, there's kind of the part, like the peak in the middle with a car is kind of like a boring drive, as where if you have like a crazy car with loads of power, loads of grip, it's really hard to drive. If you have an underpowered car with loads of grip, it's really hard to drive. And then you have that boring kind of car that's kind of like no grip, like 400 horsepower, loads of lock, and it's just like you can go out and do everything you ever wanted to do in a car easy, and it's kind of like it's just really, really boring. But then when it comes to DCA, you have the guys that are like top level cars. They want to be a professional drifter, and you can tell it by them that they want to be something good. And then you have the kind of grassroots, like underpowered, gripping the car up as much as they can, like really bringing their driving style, kind of showing who they are into their driving, which is also very important. That was kind of the thing I really loved about DCA, is that like nobody really cared about winning. It was kind of about going down, throwing down some sick runs, and just having a really good time. Like IDC kind of started as like a grassroots thing, where like there was guys in 8.6s and stuff that were able in the podiums, all that kind of stuff. Like you had Brian Egan competing in an FC, like a Honda engine 8.6 for like 2 years, and he like finished top 5 in championship both years. He had a couple of podiums and stuff like, and that was even when James Dean had his RX-7 with like 550 horsepower, which would have been like a really competitive car at the time for like European drifting even. So like it's kind of the difference in a few years with all the championships, as well as another thing is that like it's all growing so fast everywhere. It's really hard to keep up with the changes and all the championships that you've been to as well, like,
Yeah. Do you think the biggest change, I guess, in any of the championships has really been people being able to turn up the grip and being able to push the grip? So people ending up being able to, I guess, boost the power to the point that they can turn these big semis, and then all of a sudden it turns into checkbook racing, where if you can afford to buy the semis, afford to buy the big power, then you're going to have an advantage over something, say, like a DCA, where, Nathan can go and spend, a deposit on a house or a house in Ireland to build a race car. But at the end of the day, even against EG in his 32, if he decided to bring it out, is still going to be competitive purely by a restricted tire.
Yeah, like that's the thing. It's like if you prefer driving like the likes of VG's car, it's like don't try to change it just because you want people to watch you. Like all you have to do is just keep doing what you're doing, and once you enjoy it, you enjoy it. Like there's lots of people that go and build the crazy cars, and then they buy their first batch of tires, they burn them off, and then they're like, "Oh my god, I hate drifting. It costs so much money." And it's kind of like, why would you go to the bother of building this car when we've all told you the cost of running the car? You know, like there's some people in Ireland that have better cars than me. Like they run them on like pure race fuel. Like they pay for their tires. Like I'm very lucky that I get stuff sponsored, or else I wouldn't be able to drive. And if I was like, I love drifting so much. If I wasn't sponsored, I would just have a basically stock car. Just like the cheapest tires I could find, and just go and have a laugh. Like just try different stuff, all that kind of thing. Like I wouldn't try and save a load of money and then just spend it because the guy that's winning world championships has a pro spec car. You know, like it's like you shouldn't have to try spend money for people to watch you. You know, like there is places you can go to drive your own style, to drive your own kind of car that you're comfortable in. Like some people build these crazy cars, like, and they don't have a clue what they're doing with them, like, you know. And it just defeats the purpose of like even trying to build the car. You know, like some people have nothing, build a crazy car, and then they can slide a car because the power is doing everything. And it's kind of like, what were you doing in that run? And they're like, oh, I don't know, but it was sick. And it's like, nah, you know. So I don't know. It's just, I think if you want to be a drifter, you have to be your own person and not really care about what other people think. Like
I like this
do
guy.
professional drifting.
That's good advice. I like this advice.
Like I like professional drifting because I have a dream and I'm currently in the middle of following it, and that's what I want to do for my life. I want to be a professional drifter. I want to make money and be an inspiration to a guy that was like me in 10 years time, you know. But like I also want to be the guy that kind of was like gave that person that was like, oh, but I want all these views and stuff, and it's like, oh, but then like get a bad car, go do something good, post it on the internet, and you're going to get lots of likes anyway. So it's kind of like there's people that drive cars that are half of my car, and they have double my ability, and they're on more views, more this, more that, and it's like I don't really care about them. They don't really care about me. So there's no point in us interacting, you know? Like they have their own style, I have my own style, I have my dream and they have theirs. I don't understand why people just try follow. Everybody tries following the crowd for some reason, and I don't know why it is, but it's really annoying, you know. And I feel like for some reason I feel like a leader of some part of it, and you have all these people that are like, "Oh, I'm gonna build a crazy car. I'm doing this. I'm doing that," and I'm kind of like, "Man, like this is not what you want to be like, you know. You want to be a drifter. Go and get a bad car and have a good time. Don't have a bad time building a good car and then be thinking about the bad times forever." So, I don't know.
Do you think, I guess, you've taken it an interesting direction, but do you think a lot of that has come from, I guess, where you started? Like, yeah, you're only 18 now? 19, 18. 19 now, and you're a veteran in so many ways, but really you're still a dumb kid in so many others. And
Yeah.
but it's sort of you've had to appreciate, like, meeting your parents at World Time Attack was an eye opener. Like you're not some sort of spoilt rich kid who's been handed everything. You work for everything that you've been given, but
Mhm.
from the outside, like a lot of people, there's, I spoke to a guy who competes in D1NZ, and a lot of those cars that came over were from, built by parents who have
Yeah.
money, and you sort of haven't come from that. And I guess, do you think that appreciation and that attitude towards that is, part of the reason that you say the things that you do, because you've had to make a decision? Like, you would love to have a practice car, but you can't afford to have one, so you're stuck with what
Yeah.
you've got. But that's a decision that you've had to make and you've had to accept.
Yeah. Like, I work a lot. I don't work half as much as I should, to be honest. And like the amount of work that like my parents have put in for me and Connor to be drifting and stuff, like it's kind of like I hate, like I've been through some like real shit times of people being like, "Oh, you're just a spoiled kid," or this or that. But like it's kind of just to be able to just block out the haters and all that kind of stuff. Like haters make you famous at the end of the day. So like I don't really care. I don't really care what people think about me. Like so. Yeah, like drifting. Like I think to have dedication, like that's why I still see drifting as a dream, and it's not like something I know what's going to happen. You know, like you have all these people that are like, oh, I will be a professional race car driver, I will be an FD and all this kind of stuff, and it's kind of like stop talking out your ass and start waking up and realizing that it's hard work and dedication. And I think one of the reasons why, like me and Connor and like my family understand why drifting needs so much dedication is the fact that like James Dean and stuff was like my neighbor, like and basically growing up with him getting to the peak of his dream, like has kind of made us realize that like it's not all hunky dory and that you do go through the shit times and that you do have to like wait for the opportunities and all that kind of stuff. So like some people, like yeah, like I've been handed quite an amount of things for my age. Like I'm still only 19 years of age with a car that's worth probably €100,000. Like my brother's 15, he probably has the same price tag of a car, and like it's not like we've worked enough as students, I guess you could say, to be able to afford a car like that. So like it is still mainly our parents that support it, but like we do try to do everything to give it back to them, like and try make them proud when we go driving and all that kind of stuff. And also we have like shitloads of sponsors, like because if I didn't have a sponsor, like I wouldn't be able to do any of this, like like your parents can only do so much for you. Like they can only take you to the swimming pool, but like you still have to get the swimming lessons. Same kind of thing, So
Figure skating lessons.
sorry, Twinkle Toes. We can't afford figure skating lessons. I know how much you weren't.
but I think you bring up so many fair points in that time, and when I talk, kids who are, or young people who have got parents supporting them, I'm talking parents who have got massive businesses over in D1NZ or other places that are able to sustain it. Like, again, speaking to your mum, you guys have done it tough, and the last little while for you guys was tough, but you're still, your parents are still working their ass off to help you guys do it. And all I saw, well, maybe not so much from your little brother, but from you, even the World Time Attack trip, it seemed so important for you to be able to give back to your sponsors and the guys that you didn't even know who had sponsored you to come over before you sort of hit the ground. That was more important than anything else sort of on the trip, was to make sure that the people that were there supporting you and made this sort of stuff happen were your number one, and then everybody else sort of came second to that. And I think that shows a not spoiled rich kid attitude, because the spoiled rich kid attitude is, come hand me something, where yours is like, what can I do?
Yeah. Like like I've never went with the attitude of getting anything and like not being able to say thank you for it. Like it's.
I think your mum would beat the shit out of you if you did that. So.
You definitely would. Yeah, like it's like I don't get it. Like I don't understand how you couldn't be grateful for something like what they've done to get us here.
There are some shit
like,
people.
Yeah,
there are some shit people on this planet.
Like I don't know. Like everyone I talk to tells me I'm like a mature kid, or I'm well, like whatever for my age and all that kind of stuff. Like I think it is mainly down to my parents and seeing that they do like the amount of work. Like my dad, like he just doesn't stop working, like, and I don't know, like I don't think he gets it, like that when I tell him to stop working, it's not because I don't like when he works. It's like your body doesn't like when you work, like, and you're almost 50 years of age now, like, and you need to relax, but he doesn't get it, like, and it's kind of like, if we don't have enough money to go drifting, like, we will not be that angry at you, like, it's kind of like, just chill out and we'll have a Sunday off. And he's like, no, he just freaks out over it and he's like, nah. So he just, like, it's just dedication. Like, he gets angry and he has, like, his flip sides and all that kind of stuff, like, but it's just pure dedication that comes from him, like, as my mum, she's just laid back. She couldn't really give a shit. Like, she's always kind of the one that just tries talking sense when we're eating dinner. And like, it's kind of funny because like they could be in the sitting room and I'll be in the kitchen doing something. And he'll walk out and he'll say something like a stupid idea that's going to cost a bit of money. And it's usually never anything to do with us because he probably wants like a new truck or he wants to go and buy something random, like, there's something he just seen on Facebook. And he'll walk out and he'll show me a picture and he'll whisper. And then you can just hear the couch move and Mom comes out and she's like, I know you're talking about spending money, like, just say it to me, like, And I just think it's kind of the whole fact that, like, it's kind of, we make a laugh and joke about it, but you still just see his dedication that he has to be able to try and make and afford stuff. And then when you get something for free, you're kind of like, thank you, like, it actually means an awful lot to me than somebody else that doesn't say thank you for it, like, So, I don't know.
Yeah, and I saw it firsthand, your dad's dedication to brainless hard work. When Connor had the accident on Thursday during practice, and then they were trying to sort out down in the pits at World Time Attack, trying to sort out a second car for Connor to be able to drive, and there hadn't even been an agreement put in place yet, and your dad's over tearing the seat out of the car that was maybe going to be the borrowed car and getting ready to swap seats over and seatbelts and driving positions and all this sort of stuff, and it's like calm down for half a second, it hasn't been worked out yet. And then Mum's at the pub instead.
yeah, exactly. That's kind of the thing. It's just like he just loves the fact of being able to do something. Like if he can see any way of it being possible, he'll make it happen. And that's kind of, it's a good and bad thing because, like, sometimes you see some ideas and you're like, it's just not going to happen, and you end up arguing or having a fight or something, and then it's kind of like a shit time for a while, and then it kind of half happens and you don't know what to do and all that kind of stuff. That is every family, but it's probably to do with kicking a ball around the field or something. It's not exactly to the scale of being a cool.
Was Wartime Attack one of the first events that he hasn't sort of been able to be super hands-on with a car, so he's probably pretty antsy about it?
Not really. He's not as like hyped up anymore about like fixing the cars like within 2 seconds anymore. Because when we go to Europe and stuff, we try to have a little bit of a team together that like he can kind of stay as chill as he can. So he kind of sees it as like a weekend away if something doesn't go wrong majorly. So that like World Time Attack was obviously different for him because it wasn't his setup, and his setup is always much more. It's not organized, but it's more organized, if you get me. It's kind of how he knows it's going to happen. He knows what's going on. As when you're at the other side of the world and you've traveled all this way and there's like stuff gone wrong, it's kind of it must have felt different for him. Like, obviously I wasn't exactly involved in the stuff going wrong, so I didn't really get to see the emotions and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, it must have been different for him, like 100%, like,
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your 2 Aussie adventures so far. You won a drive by winning the Irish Drift Championship. The best prize, I think, of all, rather than even being the champion of Ireland, was the fact that you got to come out to drive Mount Gambier and sort of give us a bit of a rundown on, I guess you gave us a bit of an idea on what you thought of the DCA sort of championship in general, but getting to come across and drive that, what did you think of just not so much the cars and everything, but just the vibe of doing that sort of event?
Yeah, it was like DCA was kind of, it was like a practice day to me, to be honest. Like, I got to have so much fun, got to drive with everybody, got to take passenger. Like, it's kind of stuff that, like, when you do the professional side of things with all the higher safety stuff that's involved with insurance and all that kind of stuff, you don't get to bring passengers, you don't get to have quite as much as fun. Like, the amount of track time I had, I reckon it was more driving than I had done in the past year, but I done that again. So it was pretty good to be able to drive like a pretty stock car and lap for the whole weekend. Like, everybody was welcoming, all nice. They're all sick drivers. We had a good time, so it was just really, really good vibe.
Yeah. And what did you think of the RB S14 that you're driving?
Yeah, like it was basically like a pretty stock RB. Had like cutting well the knuckles as far as I'm sure. Just kind of had all the stents. It was really, really low, cool wheels, some original kit in it, and just looked sick. And I crashed it a lot, crashed into people. Good time.
I think you got sandwiched pretty good in a train at one stage, didn't you?
Yeah, we got really, really stuck in it one time. Like it went a lot better than I was expecting to go halfway through the wrongness of that battle.
Had you ever run drift trains the way that drift trains run at a DCA? Because DCA drift trains just, once everybody seems to get amped, especially in the afternoon sessions, shit just seems to get a little bit loose, particularly at Mount Gambier, because it's, you don't sort of back in on yourself, so they just seem to keep sending cars. What were your sort of feelings on that?
Yeah, it was kind of like I remember the first train. Matt was at the start line and he pointed to me one. The guy alongside me two. Then he put his hand behind us at 3, 4, 5. And I was like, he's surely joking. I was like, I'm first car here. I was like, I'm not that good in this car. I was like, oh my God. So yeah, like the first one I done, I think I was leading and I was like, oh man, like this is scary as like I done the last corner and like looking behind and there was just like transition and I was like, oh my God, I was like, drive, like get out of here. Then obviously like once it kind of one goes good, you kind of get into the flow of things. Like I've done trains before at like some Mitsouris and like practice days and stuff at home, but like never during a competition weekend because usually when it's competition weekend they try to save the car, like all that kind of stuff. But at DCA, like nobody ever really gave a shit, and they were like, "Yeah, let's just see how many times we can crash today." So
I think DCA also it helps with the fact that if something happens to your car, that there's a good chance that somebody's going to throw you the keys to be able to finish the competition weekend, or somebody will go out in one of the judges' cars and use it without a warm up lap because their cars smashed a couple of drive shafts on the start line.
yeah, no, that's probably one of the good thing about DCA is that like you're kind of never out. There's always a possibility of you getting a battle. You know, once you qualify, you will be driving. As simple as that. Like your car could break in your second run, and you're still going to drive the next day. Like it doesn't matter. That's the one thing I think that's in the back of people's minds all the time. The fact that like, oh well, look, if my car breaks, I will probably be lucky enough to get the keys of somebody else's car or something. You know, so that's kind of a good thing about it.
Yeah. And yeah, I think one of my favorite memories was I got knocked out top 32 because I'm pretty shit. And I think once the cooler pipe hopped on yours, you came up to the judges stand where I was sitting, and you were just so chill about it. Like you couldn't have even cared that the intercooler pipe popped off. You were just like, man, I'm having fun. And you sort of sat up there and you're just like, I'm ready to sit back and watch this instead.
Yeah. Yeah, like even when I finished the battle, I had like completed the run, and EG and the guys were like debating if I had actually lost the battle. And I said it to Tiana, I was like, just tell them I've lost. I was like, if I go through, I said I'm going to call it bullshit, and I'm going to like downgrade DCA in my books. I was like, I drove like shit. The car broke. I should not win. So like I don't like winning unfairly, or like if I make mistakes, I hate winning. Like it's kind of I hate when people like try to do like the shitty mistakes and then still win a battle. It's kind of like, oh my God, like why wouldn't you admit to doing something wrong? It wrecks my head, man. Like anytime I've ever made a mistake, like I will make sure that make sure that they radio the judges and be like, oh, that was like my fault, whatever. Like it's just a shit time. If you're not honest when you're driving, it's just shit. So yeah, I think that was like another good thing about DCA is that like you could just be chilled about it. Like it wasn't exactly important either, you know. It was just here for the laughs, like, you know.
Yeah.
You did drive well though. It was like I remember watching you on the side of the road, and I thought, yeah, he's gonna win the event. And that's what I thought. Just especially when you over rotated a lot and you could actually save it from getting close to a wall. That was really good to see because other people panic and they'll go towards the wall and they'll hit it. But yeah, you constantly saved it. It was really cool.
Yeah. I think I constantly saved it too much. The car was wrecked. But yeah, like it's kind of like, oh man, I drove like it was the most amount of driving I've ever done, and I even took you for a passenger spin in store when you were doing your video thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like it was just good times, like, you know, and just getting to drive. Like, I remember transitioning at one point against somebody like in the front corner light of the car, went flying as I transitioned. Like, you know, that shit is cool. Like, you know, so that's kind of the stuff that you want to do when you're drifting. So yeah, it was good, really good.
So then the World Time Attack Agreement for you and Connor to come out, I think that was organised or pretty much decided when you were already out here for Mount Gambier, or the deal was sort of cut pretty early, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, so it was kind of the week I stayed at Mount Gambier. I was chatting to Luke, and Ian had got onto him like 2 or 3 days after Mount Gambier and said, we're thinking about new drivers for this year's World Time Attack, whatever. And Luke was like, oh yeah, I've got a driver. He can drive my car, whatever. And they were meant to build that yellow S14. They were meant to build the engine and the full works, whatever. And then Connor came on the scene a bit harder, and Ian got into Luke again and said that he wanted both of us. So it was almost agreed back in February, March, like April. So it was pretty early in the year when we knew about things.
And it was was it an event that you even knew anything about before any of that went down? Was it something you'd even seen, sort of, or was it you sort of had a look once that was brought up?
I used to watch the World Time Attack. I used to never know about the drifting. So I knew about some of the crazy cars at Time Attack, all that kind of stuff. But I never really never really knew the drifting side of things on that weekend, you know. So it was like completely new, like knowing all about it and getting to figure it out.
Yeah. EG's driven at World Time Attack before as a drifter.
Oh, yeah?
I have, yes. Not part of the knockouts comp though.
Oh, you were just there for the good times?
They had this team drift sort of thing, and it was a popularity contest, and we won the popularity contest.
No.
Yeah.
He just gave out the best BJs, I'm pretty sure.
Something like that. I did whatever I had to.
I hope I didn't kill my sound. Oh no, I'm good. Alright. I thought I'd killed I was trying to do some fancy stuff. So what did you think of World Time Attack in general? I think it's probably, you've come out on one of the best years so far, where that's the most polished program that they've ever run. Yeah, there was some weird bits and pieces, and we spoke about that stuff on the show last week, but what did you think overall, on a standard of, as somebody who's attended a lot of events and drifted at a lot of as well?
It was good. I think it can be a lot better. I think Time Attack need to realise that drifting is a better show than Time Attack, and that we need more time and all that kind of stuff. There was obviously like the things with the changing line on like after 2.5 hour of practice, and then only getting like one lap before competition or whatever. That was like a bit of a big hit, especially when we came all the way in new cars. It was kind of hard to like figure things out, and like we had to change the setup of the car completely to run a different line because the car didn't have exactly a lot of power and it has a lot of grip. We had to change it up an awful lot, and then like it was kind of like you were only coming to the terms of things like halfway through a battle or whatever, you know. So that was kind of the biggest thing, I think, was like that was the only downfall of the weekend for me, was that everything else was good. Like it was good times, the camera and stuff. Like we had a lot of interviews, all that kind of stuff. Like, so that's kind of what we came here to do, was just kind of put our names out here, talk a bit of shit, have a laugh, and that's exactly what we done. So it was good.
Yeah, and I know the Link ECU guy was a bit upset when I came over to visit you at the trade stand. Thought more people would know you, but I started seeing a few fan pictures starting to pop up on Facebook. So after I left you alone, it seemed like a few people started to come and get your ugly face in a few pictures.
Yeah, like it was kind of weird. Like usually when we go and do autograph sessions and stuff, there's a queue, you know. Like I've been to FD and I like a queue of like 5 people wait for an autograph, which is pretty sick. So like yeah, it's I don't know, it was really weird. Like sitting there, like a big poster thing alongside us saying who we were. So like when I was a kid, or like if I ever went to a show when I was younger with my parents, like I used to know any of the people that I used to get the posters off them. I would have just took them anyway because they were free and they were just like a bit of sentimental value that you were at a certain event or whatever. But like that vibe wasn't there at all, which is kind of weird. Which was like that was like one thing that like I could not figure out over the weekend. So yeah, like I think Connor is used to like a massive crowd around him because at the event, like he's always in his suit, as you can tell. So like he just stands by the car because he doesn't really work on the cars. He doesn't know how to, so he just gets to stand in front of the car and sign posters and stuff at the events. So he's obviously used to like massive amounts of people coming up and seeing that he's the driver of such and such a car and that they can get a poster, all that kind of stuff. But it was just like a completely different vibe when it came to signing stuff at one time. Like,
Yeah, I guess the big difference, because I've been to 2 FD events before and a D1 GP event, and for me the big difference is the fact that the action stops so that people go and do all that sort of stuff where it's like a world time attack. There's always something on track. There's always something. You can always walk around the pitch. You can always go to merch stands. You can always be at everything at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of kills a lot of the flow of that traffic and sort of the randoms who sort of pick it up. Drifting's really funny in this country because there's not a huge following for it, but the second the drift cars or at any event, whether it's our V8 Supercars series or at World Time, as soon as people hear those cars start up or the first, the first clutch gets dumped, everybody's at the fence.
Yeah.
We can't get a huge crowd at a drift only event, which just is, tends to be a bit of a mind blowing thing. But I don't know if that's through a lack of sort of marketing on the behalf of either the series or the events that are being held. But yeah, it's one of those weird things, and I think you got to feel the full force of it because of that sort of thing. But the second you're in the car, everybody's at the fence.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of the one thing that I was like, we kind of knew it wasn't going to be a massive crowd because there was so much like activity going on. But obviously, when there wasn't a massive crowd, it was a bit of a like, oh god, we're not famous.
But do you find that the hardest part being, I guess, a professional race car driver is that the car is more heavily recognized than yourself?
Yeah, for me, definitely, because my car is good looking and I'm not. So definitely help having a nice car. Yeah, like so it's like people always kind of reckon like if you were to talk to somebody about Jack Shanahan, they'd be like, oh yeah, he drives the Link or Tri-Ace S14 or whatever. Like they'd never describe you as like the big guy with the beard, like, you know. So, like they'll always describe your cars. So like that means that like if they're talking to their friends, and if they want people to follow drifting, they're like, oh yeah, there's this guy Jack Shanahan, he drives this car. Like they're not going to be like, oh, it's Jack Shanahan, he's like fucking cool, like, you know. So
yeah,
that's the thing. I think it's always kind of the car that needs to be there to draw the attention first, rather than just a human being. It's a bit like rallying and stuff. Like I don't follow rallying, but like at home, like with our national rally championship, like I'll know the cars, but I won't know the person, you know. So
Well,
uh,
do you even know what the guy looked like who was driving the V12 S14?
nah, not until the start line.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like it's that sort of thing. So you get to know the car really quickly, and you sort of the name associated with it, but everything else is sort of a bit of a loss.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think most of the events I went to this year around Europe because I can't pronounce any of their names, so I definitely have to remember the cars. It's kind of like you pull to the start line, it's like, oh, that's the guy. I was fully sure it was someone else, and you're like, oh shit, you know. So,
Yeah,
yeah, like with European drifting, like people's names are just like, they're just weird, like, you know, like they're just really hard to pronounce stuff. Like, so you're kind of like, oh, the guy over there, like the big guy with the fancy suit, or the small guy with like the plain suit, or he drives like a stock car, or like a really fast, like the big power BMW, whatever. You never describe them by like the person, like, you know, or like by their name because you just don't know it. So it's really confusing.
yeah. So your AE86 virginity was popped at World Time Attack Challenge, and I know that you were pretty satisfied with your
I thought
first time. So
I thought you drove
no,
an 86 or something like that. KE? Was it KE?
No, I drove an 86 before, but it was like one lap of a track and that was it.
Oh.
So it was never like never got to actually practice on one or try and compete in one. I do myself pretty proud though. So
Yeah, because what I was told was that one of your first cars was an 86, and that was like
I
you
got
were
told.
solid. Sorry?
Yeah, I got that as well, and I was like, I wish. So yeah, an 86 was like my dream car. So if
Okay.
I had one of them as my, I would have been really really happy. I'd probably still be driving 86.
so what did you
So
think?
yeah. Oh, it was cool. It was cool. It kind of like it was a bit too much of an 86, you know. Like it's like I don't really like SR20 86s. Like if I was to ever have an 86, I'd have like a 16 valve, like 10,000 revs kind of thing. So like it's kind of that's kind of what I'd like as that's what I see as an 86. Like so, but it's still like it had like no power steering, like 15-inch wheels. Like it still had a lot of cool stuff going on. So it was definitely different. Like first few laps were a little bit tricky, trying to get used to transitions. Like it was like trying. It was actually like playing a simulator driving the car. Believe it or not, it was random. You know, you like with every other car I've ever driven, you flick, clutch kick, and power, and the car will continue drifting without you making adjustments to the steering wheel. As we're with the 86, it was kind of flick, clutch kick, turn in, oh shit, turn out, like turn in, like you were actually driving. It kind of felt like you were grip racing, but sideways all the time. So that was kind of like the funnest thing about it was the fact that like you never really knew what was going to happen. You know, I don't think you could ever be in control of the car. Like you won't be able to be in control of a car with that much power and that much grip. It was just absolutely unbelievable to drive, like, you know. So it was just like I made that E92 like look slow in a straight line, and like it's a 400 horsepower 86 with an RB gearbox, as where he had 900 horsepower and a sequential or something, and I was like in front of him the whole way to the start line. So I don't know, it was fucking sick.
And then did you drive it at Port Macquarie as well on the way up to Brisbane?
Got to drive it there. It was a little bit less satisfying in the wet because it was really really hard to drive, and like the steering with there none being in it, it was like tiring. Yeah.
And that's a track with a lot of corners.
Oh man, a lot of corners. I'd only done like probably 6-7 laps. And like me and Luke got out like it was kind of like yeah, we got to the gym. So
Yeah, the world's fittest drift team.
yeah, exactly. So we were like, yeah, we really need to go to the gym or something because that was really hard. And also, there was like the guy that was doing mechanicking for me. He lives like close to the track, and he came, and Luke gave him a drive of the 86, and he done like 3 laps, and he got out, and he was like, "Nah." He was like, "That's like," he said that is hard work. He was like, "Oh my god," he was in pain everywhere. He was like, he broke his ribs like a good while ago, and he was like, "My ribs are starting to get sore again." So like, that's kind of the different intensity of driving an 86. I think.
Yeah, Mitch has been in the chat saying hello to you.
Who?
So, Mitch, your mechanic.
Oh, sweet. Hey.
Yeah, that track's only just opened up for drifting, and yeah, it's a good little track.
Yeah, no, it was fun, to be fair.
Good vibes to that track, and yeah, very cool. It's a shame that you guys ended up there in the absolute pouring rain, but oh, Jesus Christ. I think anybody needs to see that. At least you didn't get his head in the shot. Oh, how we do.
See the muscles. See the muscles.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, God.
For, getting done for top course.
Yeah, no, we're like brothers, to be fair.
just a few years in between years. I'm just surprised Chelsea Denof is in Queensland as well.
Is he?
No, there was a thing going around where the fact that Luke with his beard at World Time Attack looked the same as Chelsea on the podium, or from one of the other
yeah.
events at FD.
I saw that post. Yeah.
But it looks like Luke's had a shave, not just his face, but maybe his chest too. So you've driven Port Macquarie, Archerfield, Sydney Motorsport Park now. You got a pretty big trip this weekend that we touched on already. You got Super Matsuri down in Tassie. Are you competing in that, or are you just driving the Matsuri part of the event?
Just the Matsuri part of it.
And what car have you got?
An AU.
Oh, you got the
AU.
AU.
The AU. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not too sure if it works or drives or anything yet. So I think there's a bit of work to be done to it. So, yeah, I got told I'm going to be like full on Aussie when I drive this car.
Well, you're not the first international pro drifter to jump in an AU. When Ken Gucci came across for Cash Kings after the event was over, we managed to push him into one. Not a fancy like you're probably going to get to drive, but just a normal old school taxi. And he loved it. So I think you're a little bit taller than him, so you should be okay seeing over the dash. But yeah, Ken needed a few booster seats to be able to see over the steering wheel.
Oh God!
Really? What did you get him in?
We got him in the Rockley. You know the red AU Falcon that's probably still at Archie. Yeah, he jumped in that.
Yeah.
It's got that one has pretty good lock and a few fancy little mods to it.
Is he that short?
I think the dude Steve, the guy who owns it's just really goddamn tall, so the seat pretty much sits on the floor. I don't think Ken's super short, but
yeah, because I never had any issues with my AU.
Me, like he's taller to be and stuff. He's about same size as Luke, so he's like he needs the seat on the floor. He's like really
right,
so.
Yeah, okay. AU's good. It's massive, so lots of adjustments. It's got. I'm guessing it still has a stock seat in there, and that's it. There's no mods to it.
I would imagine so. So I'm looking forward to seeing some hopefully live stream footage of Jack coming around the last corner up the front straight, fully pinned, and then over the hump. I think you're probably really going to enjoy that track. It'll be similar to sort of Mondello with the entry into the first part, except you're off the power. But when you're able to do the last corner and you're on power the whole way up the straight, you'll be hitting it a whole lot faster. So that should be, and it's got a really nice pit area, probably the nicest pit area that anybody's allowed to use in drifting in Australia. So yeah, very nice facility.
Nice.
And then I saw after that you're heading down to Rally Raceway at Coffs Harbour with Chopper.
Yeah, I get to judge down there. So,
Oh, you're judging. Okay.
so I think I get to drive Daniel's awesome DE 180 as well. He's been telling me all about it. So, yeah, should be fun.
Oh,
Cool.
so is he driving pro class in the
No,
DE?
he's judging.
No, they're
Oh,
both
he's judging.
judging.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you done
Yeah,
any
so-
judging before, Jack?
No, not for like proper like series or anything. But definitely be pretty fair when it comes to calls and stuff.
yeah.
So,
Don't
like,
rate.
yeah,
just
like
gonna-
when I if I was like when I'm gonna judge, like I won't be judging on like massive amount of like line and stuff. It'll be kind of more like who's just more cool than the other person,
Okay.
really.
It's a
So
long track.
if you
It's a
just
long.
do something sick, you 100 points. So,
It's a long track, so there's plenty of space for people to make mistakes, and then there's sort of one big section that'll be a whole lot of weight, I would imagine, for you that you'll put on that section because it's sort of the coolest part of the track as you throw it over the hill.
yeah, because I think there's 2 classes at the event I'm judging.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
yeah,
you'll be surprised for sort of how grassroots the whole venue and a lot of the cars are. The quality of, if they get a good turnout of even the pro-am guys, like the top few guys who are doing that are in pretty basic cars and drive really consistent laps, which is the cool part about that competition.
yeah. No, it'll be good. It'll be fun to actually get to do a bit of judging, build my knowledge a little bit. So
So you're going to be, so it's Dylan Roberts, yourself, and Chopper?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Considering one of the other judges has decided to ditch and do a big event at Port Macquarie instead because, he's too busy double fisting his soft serve instead of being a proper vegan.
Is that Blake?
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's Blake.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it'll be fun. So that kind of concludes my trip. I fly home on the 6th of November, which is like the Wednesday after that event. So I'll be home, get to build cars, build the race truck, try get some sponsors, and then try live a little bit as well. So
yeah, so I remember at Mount Gambier, you were going home or supposed to go home to finish high school, and then you didn't go home, and then you went home and then you went home and finished high school. Now that you
finished school, not
So
the
now-
best way to finish school, but I finished it. So go me. Yeah, no. That was like one accomplishment that I had to do for myself was just say that I got to finish school. I have absolutely nothing to show for it. Absolutely nothing. I have a metalwork and a woodwork project. That's about it. A coffee table and a little card. That's all I've got to show for my school days. That's about it. Oh, I don't care. It's fun.
it's just so
I
funny.
love
You forget how young you are. You forget how young some days.
Yeah, no, I love school, man. School was unbelievable. Best days of your life, and that's a fact. I'm telling you, like, you get to go in there and be as rebellious as you want. You get to give all these people that are way older than you shit. They get to they get to give you. You get to make friends with some like cool teachers. You get to have a laugh. You make some awesome friends. Lunchtime was sick. The cafeteria was rotten. You know, all the good memories. It's unbelievable. I'd love to go back to school.
So
if I could go back to school with the same bunch of friends I left with, I would definitely go back to school.
Is it that'd be university, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I didn't go through that. Yeah,
So-
all of my friends are in college now, so
Oh, college.
like,
yeah.
So I'm like over here in Australia, and they're all right now in lectures and stuff at home, because obviously it's daytime in Ireland. So yeah, I'm missing out on a lot of parties and being young, all that kind of stuff, because I have to be mature, I have to be professional,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
So what's your plan? What's your plan now that high school's finished? Are you sort of just going to chase the drift dream and help your parents sort of earn your way to keep doing what you're doing, or are you planning on sort of setting yourself up in case the drift dream doesn't sort of continue, or what's your plan?
Well, I work with my parents as it is. So like I work for dad, and hopefully over the next like 2 or 3 years, I'll still be doing the drifting. But obviously, like if there's nothing going to come from it after that, I will have to think about settling down and actually growing up a little bit. So yeah,
That's at
yeah,
22 then. That's 22 years old. I haven't even
Yeah,
started drifting at 22.
Yeah, no, fuck that. Just keep doing what you're doing for as long as you can.
I don't know, like it, like yeah, I don't know. I might be gonna be 5 or something.
Oh,
So I guess what
I've been,
so what
I've been drifting 10 years. Like
yeah, it's
long
scary to
time.
think.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
are you
Really
but you
scary,
but are
like,
you ever sick of it?
I think this year was probably one of my toughest years. To be honest, it was just bigger scale, lots of pressure. It was kind of just like one of those things where you're kind of like, is it really worth it? And you kind of go through the frustration and the bad results, all that kind of stuff. But then you still realize that everybody around you still cares about you and that you're actually still having a good time. So it's kind of like you kind of get sick of it for like a half an hour, and then a couple of minutes later you're like, oh, like who cares? Like it's only a bit of drifting. It's a good laugh. Like if you're not winning, like it doesn't really matter. Like once you keep smiling, I guess, like because if you show that you're the true winner, you're going to win anyway. So that's kind of what you. Even though it's really hard to do, like I never really stick by my motto. But yeah, like it's kind of like if you lose, just do your thing, have a laugh, cry for a little bit, and then cheer yourself up again. So that's kind of what I do.
So this
Never
is
like
like
you can't really get
19-year-old drift just right here from Ireland.
like you can't really get sick of something you love. Like you still love figure skating, and you get mocked
Well,
about it every day without fail. You will get called twinkle toes or something stupid. So like, and you still love it. So like, you can't get sick of it. You know?
yeah, I gotta love it. It pays for my drifting habit.
Yeah. No, it's. I don't know. Like drifting will be something that I'll be around for the rest of my life. It's as simple as that. It's kind of one of those things that just. I think once you do it once, it's like. It's worse than drugs. That's a fact. Definitely is. Because everything, like when something goes wrong, it'll go really, really wrong, and you still won't give up. You'll always make it happen. It's as simple as that. Like, and there's no point saying that you won't, because like you're going through a pretty shit situation at the time, like, and you're still like, fuck it, who cares? Gotta push through, and we're still gonna have a laugh. So it's kind of something that you just can't not love, even though there is bad times with it.
Yeah, like currently my
Getting-
car's sitting in
Getting
pieces
the
in
car
Queensland, and
stolen.
I have no shell and no trailer, and I don't know what else is even there. But I'm already looking at other cars to buy, so I can at least tie myself over until I work out where the rest of my shit is. So
Like
yeah,
like that's just drifting and the community it is. Like, the amount of support that you've had, like, with the situation. And then it's like, you've got so many people behind you. It just takes your mind off of everything, like, So I think it's the people really in drifting that make you stick with it.
well, it's the people in anything. Like like even for me, the skating stuff and all that. If you're fully in something, the other people that are fully invested in it, and you tend to gravitate towards those people. You have people who come in and out of a scene all the time, and like, I'm going to be the next blah blah whatever, and generally they're there for a couple of years and then disappear or sort of never contribute to the community. And then you get the guys who, your EGs, yourself, your Finks, all that sort of stuff, who who sort of invest their whole life and dedicate everything to it, and all those guys tend to gravitate towards each other, and that's the family aspect of it, I think, and that's why we all get so the car breaks, you spend way too much money to get up and running as an excuse to go hang out with your mates. The car gets stolen, you buy another car to go and hang out with your mates. Any excuse is a good excuse to hang out, and I think that's where the good part and the bad part, because we're all just too stuck.
I don't know. It's like I see, especially in Ireland, you talk to all these people that they're like, oh geez, I've no money, I've this, I've that, and you're like, yeah, and then you see 2 weeks later they've bought new wheels or a new turbo, or they've rebuilt their engine. It's kind of like no wonder you have no money, But then it's kind of I actually have no money, but I don't know where the money came from to buy that stuff. Every drifter has the same problem. We're all broke, but when you need money, you can get it. Weird. Every drifter is like that. It's beyond me how it works. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
So Jack Shanahan in 2019, where are we going to see him, and what's the plan?
So currently building a new car that nobody kind of knows what it is yet. There's still a lot of work to do to that. We're going to be competing in the Drift Masters Championship again. Hopefully we can get better results than this season, because this season was shocking. So yeah, Drift Masters, good times. Can't wait really. So it should be good.
And that's where all the energy is going, just into Drift Masters.
Yeah, more or less. I got to try to support the Irish Championship or whatever as much as I can, because it's local, homegrown. It's where I started, so you can't really forget about it. But probably won't be competing in the Irish Championship next year. Just purely down to funds. It's not like that I don't want to compete there, because I love competing in front of my home crowd. It definitely makes a difference. But just the budgets aren't really there. I will have 2 cars. So I don't know. Anything is possible. We might get lucky during the winter with some budgets, whatever. So not too sure yet, really. But Masters will definitely be on the card.
You might find some of that money that disappears out of nowhere again.
Yeah. It might just come back to me, maybe.
Well, once you sell that S14 shell that Luke's got, then you should be all right. So you are but your S14 is staying in one piece over in Europe.
Yeah, it will. So that's kind of going to be a spare car. Yeah, backup car. I'm gonna try keep it I want to keep it different looking to my new car, because it doesn't really look nice now. It's kind of it's very pro car looking. I tried changing it up this year, but it didn't really work the way I wanted it to. So yeah, I just have to change it to some cool style kind of thing. Just kind of make it look like what I actually like a car to look like, not like what sponsors want to look like, really. So hopefully we can make it work, with my dream of making it look like that. My new car is going to be purely for competition use only, so hopefully it'll work out.
Yeah, and is that a new car for you and Connor, or are you on separate programs?
Connor will have a new car as well next year. His 180 will also be kept. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. So I'm not too sure if it'll be possible to actually get both of them done in time, because of the amount of time we have, because it's almost November now. And that means we only have 4 months, 5 months maybe to build 2 cars. And we're also building a race truck. So there's a lot of work. So, yeah.
So I guess at this time of season, do you already have most of your sponsorship deals already locked in, or are you sort of on long-term contracts with guys like Link and Westlakes, or is that a new...
I should have most of my sponsors done, but because of World Time Attack and being busy doing other stuff. We haven't had time to get like media packs and stuff sorted yet. So we haven't actually started our program for 2019 yet, which is a little bit late to be doing things. So hopefully we can get it together within the next 2 weeks or something and start approaching new people if we can. So that's like the hardest thing about being a drifter is like it's really just it's like 15% driving, and then it's like 50% media, and then the other of it is getting your sponsors, like, you know. So it's like driving is only the smallest part. Like driving is the most that people see, and then behind the scenes is the hardest part, always. So
I think that's honestly that's what falls apart in the Australian scene. Most people don't understand that point. It's sort of like, well, if I drive as much as I can, do all this sort of cool stuff and spend all this money, then at some stage sponsors are going to walk in and start paying for my shit, and drifting will pay for itself. But yeah, it definitely doesn't sound like that. And from a few people we've spoken to, a whole lot more hard work goes on in the background. Is that something your mum and dad take care of, or mostly mum takes care of that sort of stuff, or is that, you know, something you sort of pursue as well, helping, you know, reach those agreements?
yeah, I'm kind of like we all kind of work it together. So I do kind of media kind of stuff for like both of us, like for sponsors. Like I try to approach new people, all that kind of thing. It's hard because it's two people, and like we both have different directions we want to go in. So like Connor tries to do his thing, I try to do mine. Then like my dad will think of new stuff, and then we'll all like put it on the kitchen table or whatever, and then just kind of go from there, you know.
When you talk about media, do you mean like just things that promote yourself, so like videos, Instagram, Facebook, or are you talking about full production videos that I don't know about?
Yeah, like it's kind of the Facebook, Instagram, that kind of stuff. Like at drift events, trying to make sure that like your pages are updated, all that kind of stuff. Like, you know, like it's stuff you always forget about to do, and then you leave the event and you're like, oh god, you know, like I forgot to do this, forgot to do that, you know. So that's why it's so hard. It's because it's not natural to me to be good at marketing or good at media or whatever, like, you know. So it's like I come from a pretty small place. Yeah. Where you going? No, you stay here.
I think someone's asking him some questions.
Yeah. So,
You're not getting recorded.
we're gonna. I'm sorry.
Sorry?
Okay. We're gonna have to end this because there's personal problems. Okay. I'm gonna be back in like about 10 or 15 minutes if you guys want to keep going.
Okay.
And I'll come back.
Right. Okay.
We'll keep going. Call us back. Call us back.
Okay. How much of that did you understand?
All of it.
Okay.
No,
He's all right. No, he was actually better than I thought it'd be, but except for when he got excited and started like joining all these sentences together, that's when I had to really concentrate hard to understand his accent.
No, he's pretty easy to understand. But I've been around a lot of Irish people, and
Okay.
his isn't as thick as you'd. Yeah.
No,
He's but yeah, he's pretty.
I think he might have gotten a bit.
America and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think maybe you got a bit more Australian accent into him, because you know how people sort of start taking on accents when they go to a country. Yeah, so I think it's gotten a bit easier because he's not in Ireland at the moment. So,
What did you think of the? I know your audio was acting up at that stage, but the sort of tire comparison with even FD's tires being a whole lot more grippy compared to what even he's running, being a 285 in.
No, I barely got an understanding of that conversation. I'd like it was only towards the end, I think, Yeah. Anyway, it
Yeah.
was only towards the end, that sort of last half hour, when he was talking about his, I guess, drift philosophy. That was good. But in regards to the tires, I kind of wanted to ask you a bit more about it because I just didn't. Part of it is I didn't get everything, so because the audio was so bad, I couldn't understand what he was saying. It was breaking up. What sort of things were you thinking?
No, so he basically said that because I said you're a junk pile drifter,
Okay.
and they're allowed to run it up to a 285 in European Drift Masters.
Yep.
And he said that the 295s with the big 4.5 sidewalls and all that, yeah, James Dean said it's a completely different world. And he drove a car on tires that big, but it didn't have, even at 600 horsepower, saying didn't have enough to spin those sort of tires.
Really?
And just that, yeah, that it's just in its own class again. So yeah, it's just interesting because I know you always ask like, oh, I just love to get in a car with 265 semis
Yeah.
and see what it's like. And this is a dude who drives on them and is allowed to drive on 285s and drives on 285s, knowing that even the next step up is a whole different world of tire. And yeah, I think that's where, I've driven on 265 semis and it scared the shit out of me. And that was only on figure eight. So, I'm in second gear pinned and it feels like the front of the car's lifting. I can only imagine what the car feels like in, an FD car now, listening to somebody technical of the sport in gripped up cars saying that, even that's a step above. So I think at that stage, if you've got that sort of technical mind, you start to really appreciate, even though some of the courses aren't the most exciting things in the world, you start to appreciate what, is involved
Yeah.
with those cars.
Yeah, I wanted to ask him a bit more about FD actually, because it'd be interesting to see his view. Like, he sounded really positive, but I wonder if it's something that he wants to actually compete in or eventually get to.
We're not sure if we will actually get Jack back. So yeah, we'll see how we go. We'll kill a little bit of time for a little while, but yeah, just if you end up wanting to see if he's come back on, come back and check a little bit after. But what we might try and do is try and next week. We pushed back our interview with Michael Solomon, the president of Drifting SA, because he told us yesterday that they've had to sort of hold back on releasing some information for the series and how things are sort of going to play out. So they've pushed that back a week. But I think Jack's still here the following week, so we might try and get him back on if he doesn't manage to get back on tonight, which there's a good chance he might not. So the Jack thing was a last minute thing. So if you do have questions and things like that, I'd love to get him back on. He's as I said, like, he's still a dumb teenager, like, in so many ways, but he's such an old man when it comes to drifting.
I know, it's crazy. Like, he's been drifting longer than I have, I think. No, he's been in motorsport.
He's been in motorsport,
yeah,
longer than you have. And he grew up around racetracks because I spoke to his mum and she used to drive.
Because he's been
some
drifting
sort of mini or something like
7 or 8 years, isn't it?
He said about 10. So he jumped in a car at I think he drifted first at 10 years old. So he's pushing up on 10 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
9, 10 years. So he's not that far.
Nah, not that far.
And he was driving before that, like, motorsport. So it's crazy.
Yeah, but I guess the thing with him too, you just see the genuine love of the sport and what he's doing, and then a genuine appreciation for the fact that he can do what he loves so much. And I think that's fairly special.
Yeah, I know. He's really lucky, I guess. Lucky.
Yeah.
Well, he works hard
Yeah.
for it, from the sounds of it.
Yeah,
So part of it
like,
is
I would.
it's not luck, but
It's not
he's
luck, but it's
Yeah.
It's, and not everybody's granted the same opportunities in life, and the fact that he's got supportive parents, but he's got parents that came from a motorsport background. A lot of kids who have got parents that have come from some sort of sporting background tend to be supportive in what their kids want to do, and you just get lucky.
Yeah.
So, and some
No, it's
parents make
cool.
you study, and it doesn't sound like that was for Jack. So, look, let's not count on Jack getting back. We'll probably try and grab him for a wrap up once he's done Tassie Matsuri and done some judging at Rally, but he leaves on that. Oh, it
Yeah,
might
it
be,
leaves on the Wednesday. No, I don't think we'll get him. I have a feeling he'll probably leave on a morning flight.
We'll get him once. We'll get him once he's back in Ireland, if worse comes to worse, because he had his daytime there. So we will be able to get him. But yeah, we'll do a better announcement earlier so that people can shoot through questions. Because I get smart ass Jack when I'm at the track. After the few times meeting him, that's what I cop. But listening to him and having, I teach some 19-year-old, and I'll call them kids, some 19-year-old kids. There's a lot of things missing in their brains, but to listen to him speak as an old experienced dude at 19, I think it's very cool. So, and reiterates so many points that even you say, but he's sort of doing it at the total opposite end of the spectrum to what you're doing, yet his philosophies and beliefs are pretty much on point with yours.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah,
if everyone else thinks the same way. Well, do you think the same way? Like, you think it's like that? Like it's similar?
No, I think your philosophies on it all are very similar, and he's in a situation where he can do what he can do, and you're in a situation where you do what you can do with it. You'd probably be like, oh, get rid of the pro car and just stick to the fun stuff if that's all you can afford to do. But again, he's at an age where he can chase that dream, and in a situation where he can chase that dream. Where I think if anybody was sort of put in that situation where there's the potential, same with me and Danny when we were skating, chasing the Olympic dream. That was the situation at that time. Is it something that we could set up and try and do now? No, probably not. You got to sort of be a responsible adult at that stage. But as as a 19-year-old chasing a dream, he's only going to have a couple of cracks at it unless he goes and earns a crap load of money, and drifting still exists in 25 years' time, and he's managed to make a whole lot of money, and he can go burn it on trying to, be a professional drifter type thing. But who knows where the sport will be in that long.
I think with people like Jack in the sport, it will be around for 25 years in some way or another.
You'd definitely hope so, as long as guys like that are able to lead from the forefront and are allowed to lead from the forefront. And when I say allowed, I mean by series organizers, by the masses, by the fans, all that sort of stuff. If that's the hands that drifting is put into, then there's a future for it. But if it's dictated by other people, then I don't see a future in it.
Like money makers or something, promoters, they're just in there for money.
Yeah, just or people who think they're doing the right thing, but just they don't bleed it like somebody like Jack does. Yeah,
it's cool. I think it was good to have him on. Should have him again. Be nice if we can have a panel actually. I was just thinking, and then get rid of all these stupid audio issues.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get there one day, maybe. We'll get there one day. Okay. So we might wrap it up. I don't want to put pressure on Jack to rush back. He's had to help Luke deal with some stuff in Queensland. So
all good.
So I don't think there's much else going on
besides
high tech.
Winton's this weekend.
Yeah. So Tassie Super Matsuri, which is the last round of DCA Tasmania Series, is this weekend. I think there's still some entries. They're just running a top 16 competition at that event, but I'm pretty sure there's still plenty of entries for all the Tassie locals for the Matsuri part, and then it's a BYO big party as the competition happens under lights, I'm pretty sure on Saturday night. So get on that. And I think there's a burnout competition maybe. And then the 4th round of the High Tech Drift All Stars is this weekend at Winton. My understanding was originally they were planning on running the sweeper into the M's.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to do the sweeper into the M's, but because of the way that their camera equipment and live stream capability stuff, they've had to switch back and run the front S's, which is the same as they ran the last round. I know that when I spoke to a few of the guys, they were trying to push to be able to run the track backwards, so it'd be sort of left, right, left instead of being right, left, right like the first round. But that didn't seem to get across the line with insurances, so they're running it, just the same, which isn't such a bad thing. They ran figure eight, but I guess High Tech ran figure eight for years and years, and it was fairly successful on running that. So running the same layout in the same season really isn't a big deal, considering they're going back to Wakefield, and I would imagine Wakefield's probably going to be the same track, or maybe they've been allowed to run Wakefield short backwards or something, but I can't imagine there'd be much variety other than running Wakefield, whether it be traditional Wakefield short or Wakefield short backwards, because I'm not sure what else you'd run a competition on at that track.
You could do it at the Drift Australia days, but there'll be one drop off. Like you could smooth it out, because you remember how they. Do you remember how they did that?
I never saw. I do not. I came into watching Drift Australia, I think, just the year after they did the one Wakefield round.
Okay. I think it was Drift.
Or was it initial?
No.
Full lock? Is that full lock still then?
Full lock was going up and out. Actually, I've forgotten which one's which now. So, one of them. I'm just going to say one of the courses, the previous courses, was down the dogleg, and you turn right. So you remember where you see the entry, like a joining road that we never use. We never ever use between the dogleg and the short course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you come down that through part of the short course and back up again and out. But there's that drop off at that point, and so there'd be like a few switches.
Yeah, and I think they've resurfaced the track once or twice since then, so I'm pretty sure the lip is fairly significant now between that.
It's all right. I'd do it.
So that's this weekend. They're saying they're still taking last minute entries, so I'd imagine they're sort of at their standard numbers as normal. So probably maybe 16 for pro and around the same for pro-am if they're lucky. So I think that's all that's going on this weekend. Everywhere else on the planet seems to be sort of wrapping up their seasons as they get their,
actually, you know what wrapped up as well was Vic Drift.
Was that the last round?
Was that last weekend or the week?
No, it was last weekend. It was last weekend. I just can't
it was under lights. No, that was the last round. I'm pretty sure.
Was it?
I'm pretty sure it was.
Kept up enough. I've just been in my deep state of depression. That was the last round?
Yeah.
I'm a bit. Mitch hasn't been sending us our updates. So
no.
Our underground reporter lasted one round and then he ditched us.
Even when we obliged his request of putting it on Facebook and putting the stream on Facebook. Is he watching us on Facebook?
Yeah. Yeah, it was the last round. Yeah, I just had a look at dates.
So that's been run and won, but I didn't actually watch the stream.
No, the stream was a bit choppy this one. This was probably one of the not so great streams that I've seen from them when it came to the actual quality of. But I think the weather down there sucked really badly, so overcast and fairly crappy. It's a layout I'd like to get to drive coming off the front straight down into the bowl and then back up onto the main surface.
That's just the left, right, left. Is that right? It's just like a U. Yeah. So because they've done one where they go through a sweeper or something, and there's like a little and then finished into there.
And that's another one I'd really like to drive. Is they start on the back straight, sort of the traditional corners that they used to run in the full lock days and all that, and they come down backwards and then into that link road that sort of joins the back straight to the front straight and then transition.
Yeah.
So the championship was taken out by Justin Gruner, which is not really.
Wasn't he? He was like way in front, wasn't he? I'm pretty sure. Like he was
I think he had
consistently
a
winning.
comfortable lead because he didn't podium at that last round, and I think he pretty much wrapped it up from the last round. So hopefully Justin gets out and does a little bit more other than some Vic Drift.
He used to do DCA. I think I saw him in ADGP as well when that was around. Something. I saw him in some other event, or maybe I just saw him and not driving. I'm not sure.
Sorry, replying to messages.
Okay.
Just give me half a second. Oh,
Okay.
you can keep talking. I think that's. All right. We actually have him. He'll be back. He's back.
Oh, okay. So Jack's coming back on. Crisis averted? Or is it still going on?
No, I think we're okay. I think it's all good.
Okay.
I'm just trying to see if he can add himself back in.
Oh yeah, because I think you can just rejoin an existing one that you've been in a part of.
Yeah. So yeah, the rest of the. I'm gonna butcher this name. Agi. I don't know. Agi came second, and Nathan Atkinson came third for the championship. So, and Agi won the last round. So, if I've butchered your name, I apologize because I'm way too white for names like that. And I'll say it, and then I'll offend people, and then yeah. That's why I try not to say anything.
I think you talk the most out of both of us.
Oh, is that?
It's Jack.
Oh, that's our boy back.
Oh,
He's changed positions.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can. Oh, he's on his own now. Crisis averted, mate. Crisis averted.
Yeah, it's all good.
Somebody came and bought my shell, did they?
Yeah, we're just getting the money there.
I can't even remember where we're at because.
Oh no, we started talking about future plans and then had a chat about your car and I guess we started talking about IDC and you're probably going to be supporting it in some way. And then from there we went a little bit off a different direction, but I can't remember where though. Buzz related.
So I guess I was going to ask earlier, are any of your sponsorship agreements performance based, or are they all sort of that's your agreement as long as you're showing up to events and running events that your agreements still stand?
Yeah, it's kind of once you stick to doing what was agreed on, obviously performances help, but it's not performance based, no. So
yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, sorry. So when you go this time of year, have you been trying to look at approaching new companies? And when you go to new companies, do you have sort of a standard format that you take to them, or do you just sort of throw bait out to a few of them and just hope that somebody bites, and then you can sort of start to talk from that point?
Yeah, that's kind of how I approach it all the time, really, is just kind of hit up some people that you think might be interested, just some random people as well. It's just the heart of trying to get sponsors is contact. Trying to get in contact with the right people. It's you can go onto any website and get one of those info at whatever at gmail.com, whatever it is, and then like they're like impossible to like make a deal with or talk to because it's just a random guy in an office, as we're trying to get like proper email addresses or contact numbers is the hardest thing.
Yeah, and uh, again, interesting hearing it from somebody at that top level, because a few people will send 6 emails, get no reply from 4, and get 2 rejections saying no, and that's like, that's enough for me.
Yeah, well, that's what happens at my level. I think I sent maybe 80 or 90 emails last year and probably got 70 of like no replies.
Wow.
5 were probably rejections, and 5 were kind of talking but never came through.
Yeah,
So that's kind of how sponsorship works. It's really hard. Like if you don't fit their slot at the exact time, they just forget about you. Like they'll never pencil you in and be like, oh yeah, there's something happening like this, or it's kind of like, oh no, at this current time, there's nothing happening. Sorry.
yeah. And do you sort of, I guess I look at something like Forrest Wang's Vape Tasia sponsorship, and I would imagine that's an agreement that's sort of come from them more than it's come from him. Do you think by just doing as much sort of media and all that sort of stuff that you might get lucky with a sponsor coming on board purely based off, hey, like we've heard the story and we want to do more with these guys, or do you sort of, your relationship with Link is really good and really strong, and do they each year sort of go, oh, we can, our company's growing, we can do a little bit more with you? There's that.
Yeah, well, like there's kind of no how the deal will change or whatever. So it's kind of like it's just they're such a good company, like so they're just understanding. They get what's going on, they get the struggle. The guy that like is really involved in my sponsorship program from Link is he's been drifting like all of his life. So he understands the commitment and the control it has over your life. So he understands like if you don't perform well or if you do perform well, and then he can relate that to the boss properly. So which is also a help. But the whole deal thing, it's like anything could happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess you look at something like James Dean has his strong Falcon relationship, and that's a big European connection. But then you look at the Waterhouse deal, and that's something he sort of just fell into, it seems like, with just a good relationship with a dude who had that connection, and that's where that all sort of came about, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, right time, right place sometimes.
Yeah. I think that's everything in drifting though, is like right place, right time, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. Alex from Speed Tech wants to know if you have any Aussie sponsors on your European cars.
oh yeah, he's one of my sponsors. Yeah, he supplies me with like manifolds, like intake, exhaust, all that kind of stuff, fuel rails, throttle bodies. So good quality stuff.
Oh, so
Get it.
he's probably got a good idea on what your new cars are then.
Yeah, he knows exactly what my new cars are.
Your AU
yeah,
Falcons are going to be sick. I didn't realize he was making parts for AUs, but should be pretty cool.
Yeah, I need to get the test drive one. But yeah, I've got like Linker from New Zealand, Turbo Smart, one of my good sponsors, ACL Race Bearings, another one of my good sponsors, Speed Tech, like they're 3 good sponsors from this side of the planet. So it's cool though that you can have people support you from all the way over here.
Yeah, and I'm guessing you've looked outside of the most, like, I guess, the automotive industries for
Yeah,
sponsors?
you do, but because drifting isn't exactly seen as a professional motorsport, it's very impossible. It's not that it's impossible, but it's very hard to get those kind of people interested.
Yeah.
So a bit hard.
Yeah, and there's only one Mad Mike, there's only one Vorden getting Junior, all that sort of stuff, and
Yeah.
that's where the money sort of goes, I guess. Can't you take
Yeah.
like Bagsy's deal? You're a better driver than Bagsy. Surely Monster would want you more than him.
Yeah, but like, it's not that I'm a better driver than him because he's pretty good at driving. But like, also is the fact that he's so good at the media. Like his whole team's production, you know. It's like when you walk past his pitch, it's like going to see a show, you know. He has the big truck, the big marquee thing. It's up at every event, no matter what it is. The cars are always presented well. He's does all the camera work. His like Instagram is updated like every hour at a drift event. Like, you know, that's the difference between he's making money from drifting, and that's the difference between him making money and me not making money.
Is that something
It's
you're
kinda-
looking at? Is that something
it's
you're looking
kinda
at changing?
But don't do it.
Will you look at doing something like that for this season coming, or trying to do
Yeah.
more of that?
We always try to step it up every year, make a difference, you know, do something different, you know. But it costs a lot of money. That's the thing. But you
Yeah,
need like I think once we get next sorted away and we have two good cars, two fresh cars, and we can actually start putting budgets into media and all that kind of stuff, it'll make a difference. As we're now, like, it's very hard to make budget off sponsors in drifting. So, like, one year you're going to have to try to set all your budgets on a car, development, getting your team to the events. That's how you spread it out. Then when you have your car built, your budgets go into like more development, media, and getting your team to the events. You know, and as we're this year we're building two new cars, it's going to be an awful lot of our budget will go into the cars. So media probably won't be as good either next year. But hopefully we can make it work. Like we've tried doing different things. We had a media guy come to the first two rounds of the IDC, and like it worked. We were getting better views, all that kind of stuff. But we just couldn't afford to bring him around Europe with us. So that was kind of the downfall to it, like, you know.
Yeah, so if anybody actually ends up watching this from over in Europe, if there's anybody who is a startup in videography and wants to follow around a drift team and is happy to do it on basic money, but just wants to see some cool shit, then get in contact with the Shanahan family, because I think it would be, I think you guys would be a great opportunity purely based off dynamic. You'd be one of those dysfunctional. If somebody was to do the whole background of it, you guys would make like the greatest like trash like reality TV show where like Dance Mums and all that sort of stuff. Just because the family's hilarious. There's four totally different personalities in the family, and I think a lot of people when I got to see that at World Time Attack, different to when you're on your own. It's an interesting dynamic, and I think that's what makes your family special compared to sort of other people in the drift scene. But yeah, everybody focuses so hard on making these montage videos and all that sort of stuff when there's such a so much cooler story in the background. I'm surprised your dad didn't pick up personal sponsors after the number of times that pictures showed up of him fixing people's cars in the pits during IDC rounds and stuff like that.
Yeah, like it all helps, you know, the little things of like dad being seen doing stuff like that. Like my mom feeds the whole pits, like, you know, if you're hungry, you go to our truck and you'll get food. It's as simple as that. Like my mom doesn't leave the truck. Like
Yeah, that's because you
cooking.
get upset after 30 minutes of not eating.
Yeah, I know.
That's actually where Jack went. Like Fink was like signaling to him, "Oh, come on, Macca's break for you now because we know you're starving."
Yeah, I was hungry. At every drift event, so we get up like on the day of competition. We get up, we go to briefing, we come back, we just give the cars a once over, like looking at everything, make sure the oil and water and all that's okay. tire pressures, get our helmets and stuff, put them in the car. We go do our first set of tires, come in, and then Ma'am has food ready for us. So we have a sandwich, we have a chat about our stuff, me and Connor. We talk about the different lines, what we should do differently. Then bottle of water, another set of tires come in, chill for a little bit, make sure the car is okay, change a few things, and then go do your last bit of practice and then qualify. That's kind of how a drift event morning goes for us. And then dinner time, you get another sandwich, maybe a pot noodle or a soup. You know?
I'm just glad your events are that scheduled that it's the scheduled food breaks are definitely more important than the seat time.
Yeah. If I was hungry driving, I'd be really, really bad at it. Like, you know, you've seen it happen.
What time attack you did struggle when you got hungry?
Yeah, I really did. It was like putting fuel in the car. It's the exact same thing.
Probably more important than fuel in the car. Because if there's fuel in Jack, you can push the car.
Yeah.
So I guess in the ideal situation, and if the right people were to see this interview, what would you ideally need for next year?
Money.
But what? Yeah, But
what's the money going towards?
Yeah, what's that for?
Hello. The money will go towards media, clothing, and just a bit of giving back. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not like I don't want to make money from it. So say hey.
Hi, Scarlett.
Hi, Scarlett.
You know him? You do. That's Twinkle Toes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, like it's just kind of like if we could get media going, I'd like to get a clothing range going. So like obviously like every bit of money that I'd ever get from drifting would more than likely go back into it. You know, like
Yeah.
obviously I needed enough to live. But like you know, it would kind of be get as little as I could from a chunk of money and make it work, and then use the bigger chunk of money towards drifting and making sure that stuff is going to plan. Probably expand the team a little bit because there's like one guy like Liam, he does like everything at events, and then we try to bring like Kane or my cousin, and then they do it a little bit. Like they try to take the pressure off the main mechanic, and then obviously Dad is there as well if something goes wrong. So like if we could actually afford to, because like we can't afford to pay the guys doing the work on the cars, we just pay for their flights and make sure that they get fed and stuff at the events, and they're happy with doing that. Like you know, it's not like they're complaining, but it's like you don't want them to be slaving for you. You know, you actually want to be able to give them something like, and especially when a weekend is bad, like they'll work their ass off, like, and then you will go out and drive like shit and not give a result or not give them a trophy to bring home, and you know. So at least if you could actually be like, look, here's your wage, thanks very much, you're a legend, like you know, a little bit easier. So
Yeah,
that's kind of the thing I'm missing is just being able to be that bit more professional and just be able to give back to the people that have helped us. You know?
yeah. So I guess from my takeover from that is if you could pick up, even if it wasn't financial, but if some sort of clothing printing business was to jump on board and do some merch so that you could sell some merch and that goes directly back into the program, that would be amazing. I don't think it really matters what sort of corner of the planet it's on. If somebody was willing to be able to print that sort of stuff for you, it's money that could directly go back into your pocket, especially done at the right price. You know, you can make some decent money back on it. And then if somebody was willing to do some you know, to step up and do some media stuff just to follow you guys around, follow the circus around a little bit, it would be a jump start on trying to make those things happen even without money in your pocket just yet. But yeah, it's it's the plan is there, and that's what's great to see from you guys. The plan is there, but the worst
Yeah.
part about that sort of plan is when you've got to accept the fact that it's a long-term plan, not a short-term plan.
That's the thing.
So
It's long term. So yeah.
yeah, so
Everyone-
if anybody sees it and wants to do, is over in Europe and wants to do some media for events, get in contact with Jack. He's always on Facebook, so contact him. And if I don't know if there's somebody on that's listened to this that's got connections in some sort of Southeast Asian printing business or in even over in Eastern Europe somewhere that can print bulk amount of T-shirts for bottom dollar prices and is happy to put their logo on it to make it happen and get these guys some merchandise happening for free, then yeah, I think there's all those sort of opportunities there. Go hunting for them because yeah, I think the Shanahan name will be in European drifting and world drifting for more time to come. And I think European Drift Masters, I think, will be what I think sits beside Formula Drift and D1 GP as the other series to definitely watch. I think this year it started to take a lot more interest around the world. I think because this is the second season of European Drift Masters.
Second, well, it's the first European Driftmaster season.
Okay,
They've had like 2
the
or
Eastern
3
European
years
sort of thing.
of just Poland, like just the
Yeah,
national series.
okay. Yeah.
And then they decided to make it into European. So
yeah. So I think that's definitely going to be.
I think next year you'll have a different opinion of Driftmasters. The plans are like the foundation has definitely been laid to build an absolute mansion of a championship.
Yeah.
You know, like this is only year 1, which is what you got to remember, and everybody's talking about it. So like year 2 can only get bigger and bigger. So yeah, I think next year for Driftmasters will be pretty insane. It's like I'm definitely keen for it to start like straight away. Like it's gonna be, I reckon it's gonna be even more crazier than this year, which is hard to believe. I don't really want to believe it, but yeah.
Yeah, so I think for me personally, I think that'll take a step ahead of D1, even though that's going to upset EG.
Definitely will. D1 has gone downhill. It has.
It'd be interesting. See what because of the post that Kumakubo made, but it's true. Like I think it's D1 has been going down for a long time. I mean, especially with Suchiya stepping off, that was like one big sort of event. But then I think Speed Hunters did cover some. I think it was Speed Hunters. Maybe it's a different vlog, but yeah, they sort of covered other issues within D1. So it's, I know, just watching, like they're trying to revamp their image and they're doing different things, but I have a feeling FD and like even IDCs. I remember watching it when Luke was there, and then watching it now. It's changed. It's IDC has gotten huge, I think. Like and it seems to flow really well. FD, I still don't like the courses. It's massive though. Like it's incredible how many people go to there, and the crowd response is it's crazy. Like I think that's what D1 used to be, and it's not like that anymore at D1. So, but I'm just afraid that things sort of go in waves, because that's what happens in Australia. Is like people go crazy about a new comp or a new sort of thing. They go to the first round because it's the first, because everyone likes first and shit like that. But then the popularity sort of, it builds up a little bit, then dies off, and then eventually it just becomes nothing, which is it's kind of shit. But
I think that's everything with like drifting though. Like if you take every championship that's ever happened all over the world, there has been like the peak, the kind of struggle, and then the massive amount of people that will watch it, and then it's kind of starting to fade. That's kind of, I think it's happened everywhere. To be honest, so I don't know. I think it's kind of, I'm not too sure if it's just drifting and that people just don't know how to follow it. That because of the progression of the sport, that people get confused with what's going on, and then they try to do something different, and they're like, "Oh, why did we do that?" Because drifting has actually been the same for many, many years now. So. But then people are still trying to change it every time somebody tries to set up a new championship or something. I think that's for drift masters, they're not trying to change it as much. It's just natural drifting. You still have the same format. There's good judging. It's all down to line, style, aggression, all that kind of stuff. It's all the same stuff that's been judged for years. And I don't know, I think changing the format, it's kind of like the first format was the format it's meant to be at, and then if you want to change it, you do it to an amateur competition. I think.
Okay.
So
that's an interesting point, and I think drifting needs to be at the top 32, but I think being able to speed it up in whatever way they can possibly speed it up, like things like the 5-minute rule being introduced and all that sort of stuff is definitely fair to try and get the show moving. And I know that's what other series are trying to do, is try and keep the show moving as much as possible. But I think the big thing, and I guess here in Australia we have V8 Supercars. I don't know if you followed much of the race that went on just down the road from where you are at the moment over the weekend, and then Formula One. Is that it's in the news, it's in people's face, and it's like, oh yeah, shit, there's a Formula One event on because they've just announced the qualifying results. I might stay up tonight and watch Formula One. So it's always in the forefront of people's minds, where drifting will do a whole bunch of social media stuff for one round, and then the event organizers won't do something for the next round, and everybody sort of forgets about it. Or it's just, we're in a generation now of people that, unless they get constant reminders of things, they've moved on to the next thing.
exactly.
So it's always got to be pushed in the face.
Is the fact that Dave and the lads, they work in an office purely for the Irish Championship, so it's their job to make sure that people don't forget about it, and I think it's worked. You can talk to nearly anybody that's into cars in Ireland, and they'll know when the last event was, they'll know when the next event was, they'll know who won it, they'll know who done good, they'll know who was the underdog. It's it's because they get the constant updates on Facebook. It's always there. That's the one thing with IDC, they're always posting, they're always doing something, which is that's one downfall with nearly other championships, is because they'll kind of make the mistake, is what you just said, of the event is over now, we don't need to talk about it, So I think that's one way of making sure that the progression of the sport is helped, is that if it actually did go mainstream, if it got the news, I don't understand why it's not like James Dean has won two world championships and he still hasn't made the news in Ireland.
So even you winning the IDC and James winning FD twice doesn't make national news.
Doesn't make national news.
See, that blows my mind when considering the magnitude of the sport in your country, plus the fact that motorsport is huge there, like Isle of Man, also, all that sort of stuff is, the country for such a small country bleeds motorsport, yet I just don't understand it not being that sort of thing, not making it on the news.
Yeah, it's not like we're bothered by it, because James done that TV program. It's a morning show with this girl that does an AM TV show, whatever it is, and he didn't want to do it. He said he was happy he done it after he went, but before he went, he said what's the point of me going on TV and doing this? He said it's only just me, and he said drifting needs to be seen as a sport. He said it doesn't have to be seen by one person, and I don't know, if somebody asked me to be on TV, I'd definitely go on TV,
Yeah, I think that's I'm glad he did it, because even though I don't love that attitude, because my thing is, all it takes, especially in today's day and age, is Jack Shanahan goes on TV. Who the fuck is Jack Shanahan? You know what? What am I going to do with Jack Shanahan's name? I'm going to punch it into Google. Let's have a look
Yeah.
at Google. Oh, this video's come up. This Facebook link's come up. Oh, what's he doing? Oh, this is cool. Oh shit, I've just spent 3 hours looking at this dude's crap by seeing this 30-second segment or 3-minute segment on some morning show, and that's how those things go. So I can understand James being like, it needs to be seen more, but that's now how people find more.
Yeah. I don't know,
Is that
we just it just needs to go national in every like W or like Formula One is like the most boring thing you can watch. You know, like there's somebody in your like obviously they're talented drivers. Like don't get me wrong, they are the best at what they do. It's simple as that. But like they're getting told in their ear by like your teammate should be in front of you. What are you doing? Like this kind of stuff. Like it's like it's politics. Like everything is politics when it comes to that kind of stuff. And for some reason, it's everything that has politics get to in the news. And that's one thing with drifting is that people are so understanding about results and they're so understanding of like everything. There's no like peak of of fury, and it's usually negativity that brings the major headlines.
Yeah.
It's always when something goes wrong, people will write about it. Like it's not like if something brilliant happens, people will generally not talk about it, only in person. And like word of mouth doesn't really get you anywhere these days. As if something bad happens, they're gonna share it. Like that thing with Connor at the weekend. Like Connor didn't win, but like nobody cares about that guy winning the event. Nobody. Like nobody cares about Luke Fink coming second. Nobody cared about the other guy coming third and the other guy coming fourth. I can't even remember. But everybody shared the video of Connor Shanahan jumping out of the car. And like it just goes to show one negative thing and it gets massive reaction. And the positive thing from that weekend was that a Japanese guy can still win a drift event. And it's like, oh yeah, we're not going to talk about that though. It's just, I don't know, I don't get it. It's just stupid. Like, I don't know.
So what you need to do is start winning drift events and then punching the guy in second place on the podium.
It'd be more like come second in the event and then punch the guy that won the event.
Yeah, or you could do that too. Like there's some Blades of Glory shit going on there. Or like be on top of the podium and grab them both by the head and then like try and body slam them off the podium or do something like that because.
I actually hit somebody with a champagne bottle once by accident. The podium and you do the champagne spray. So they told us that we're not allowed to run around, that we have to stay on the podium. And like you put your head down, and I got an elbow, and then my hand went flying, and like my bottle like hit someone. I can't remember who it was, but like it was the funniest thing I ever met. Like he nearly like got laughed. Like he was like looking at me, he was like, "Oh man." It was very good.
Well, there's a pretty famous Irish guy who's unemployed at the moment. I don't know if you've heard of him, Conor McGregor.
Oh yeah.
Maybe you could like pick a fight with him or get him in a drift car or something because he needs work now and he might be willing to, do something. Maybe.
I reckon I bet him. Wait.
You reckon you got him?
I reckon I bet him. If I train for 4 months, I'll jump in the ring with him.
I do a pay-per-view for that.
I can earn a quarter as much of what he earns for a UFC fight. And if I hit the last 2 rounds, oh man, I'd be there. Like right now, I went to the train. I'm like, yo, where's the ring? I'd fly there right now.
Well, he's unemployed now, so I don't know if that's going to happen, but he might be looking for some business opportunities. So
I've actually tried messaging his page a few times to see if he wanted to get in the drift car. His dad was at one of the IDC rounds, and he was meant to come back the next day and get in the car with someone, but he never did. But it'd be actually unreal to get somebody like that in the car. Yeah, I'd love to try to teach him and see if he can actually do the whole crossover thing from fighting. Because I've never heard of somebody going from fighting to driving.
Yeah, you hadn't heard of somebody going from figure skating to driving either, so.
Yeah, but like, you always hear of like other balanced sports like BMX, skateboarding, figure skating. Will always kind of the crossover is there. You never
Yeah.
get it from any other extreme sports, like, you know.
Yeah, you got to hit up his wife. I'm pretty sure his wife's his manager. So see if you can get that to happen. Either maybe you could have like a drift battle, and then you could have a punch up after it. Hey, any exposure is good exposure, right?
Yeah, Jack Shanahan's dead. Sorry.
Just be careful. Just be careful when you're in the van, like in the new
Bus.
truck. That he doesn't start throwing stuff through the windows. So
He's out of the guy. He just fights for what's right.
yeah,
There's a difference.
and I'd imagine he gets huge news at home. So yeah,
Yeah, he gets in the news.
I think that's the most
For
disappointing thing.
you,
Yeah, but I think that's it's the most disappointing thing that I've heard in this whole chat that we've had. That James, like I'd seen that little news segment, but that's the extent of James and yourself and guys winning championships there, making on the news. Like I know, Dale hasn't made it on from winning DCA, but man, they hate car culture in Australia. Like the media just hates it, but the Irish people seem to embrace motorsport so well. Yet that's
like whenever
nothing.
there's like the Northwest 200 or whatever it's called is on, like the road racing on like the superbikes, like that gets aired on the news. If there's ever any big boxing matches or soccer matches, like Jesus, like I hate soccer, like, it's like I think it's 16 people on a pitch running after a ball. It's just stupid, like, like if you give them all a ball, they'll all have a ball. They won't have to fight or fall or act like girls, and they'll all get paid. It'll be all good. It shouldn't be air, They get video games, everything. Like being a drifter is a way more fun. I tell you that. Like you can be fat and be a drifter, and it's sick. You have to train 6 days a week. That doesn't sound like a fun time.
I'm just not sure how I continue point on from that. EG, I think this is your moment to shine, mate.
I didn't hear any of it.
Oh fuck!
Except for the last bit about drifting when you're fat or something like that. Yeah.
That's why I've been training hard to be a drifter, and then I just have a car that don't work. Anybody who's still watching, if you have any questions, start firing through some questions, and we can ask Jack while we got him, or else we'll let him start. It's only 9:30 up in Queensland, but we'll let him go because I'm sure he's
hungry.
almost ready for another break. He said pizza doesn't tie him over long. So
Oh,
I can't check YouTube, so put the questions on Facebook unless you've got YouTube open.
Yeah. YouTube's only got 4 viewers, and I think I'm one of them. So,
okay.
Facebook's got a few more. So
It has been.
Jack Shanahan in 3 years' time, under the ideal situation, is where?
European champion, I hope. And don't know.
You're not hoping Are you hoping to get over for like a season or a round at FD at all?
Yeah, like I don't want to just go for one season. Like I want to make sure that there's like a proper deal in place, contracts and like all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, so at this stage, that's the European thing is a reality. You can make that happen. You can give yourself sort of the 3 years to be number one in Europe, and then if you can leverage that to a proper program somewhere else, you'll take that program somewhere else, and if you can't, you'll just keep doing what you're doing, sort of thing. If it's sustainable.
Yeah, exactly. So like hopefully if the 3 years go to plan, there'll be bigger sponsors, and hopefully the sport will have to progress a little bit more by then as well. So. Like it might be a little bit easier then to pick up on sponsors and travel and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And are you going to keep doing the the occasional trips over to. You didn't do as much this year to the US, did you? You did it a lot in the first year of James being back, but you didn't do so much this year, did you?
I only done one round last year, and I done no round this year. So,
Okay.
so yeah, no, I want to go back again next year though, to watch around. There's a really good atmosphere in FD, to be fair.
Yeah. So you've done Long Beach and you've done Irwindale, right?
Just Arundel.
Oh, both
didn't
rounds
go-
were Irwindale? I thought. Why did
No.
I think you did a Long Beach?
No,
Okay.
no, just Arundel.
Okay.
So,
The master fabricator from Black Arts wants to know about the potato famine.
oh God. Tell him that he should listen the last time I told him. And not laugh in his face.
And not let you electrocute yourself either.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
He's a bad teacher.
yeah, I was gonna say when you're working there as an apprentice, do you know if you're covered by work cover? If you know what that is.
I'm actually going to go there tomorrow in fall.
He just messaged me to say I should ask you about how he went welding. You went welding with him, and he actually told us early in the episode that he electrocuted himself. So, or was that? Oh no, that wasn't even on air. I don't think. Yeah. So you've been hanging out with Daniel Shoulders, Chopper, and he's a
Yeah,
fabricator, and so I saw a little bit on Instagram, and it looked you look like a total not natural at it.
Yeah, you've seen a bad side of me, to be fair. Like, I actually done some pretty good welding.
Why is that not on social media?
You know?
I don't know.
And then tell us about the fact that you almost, and in case Mum listens to this, about how you almost died.
Yeah, so I was at his shop welding, and he said he must go and drop some knuckles to some guy that he had made. So I continued to weld, and because of the heat of like trying to weld around, my arm started to sweat a little bit. But I never realized that if you are sweating, you become a better earth with the welder if you touch off the metal. And and I ended up getting electrocuted pretty bad, and like burnt my like a hole in my stomach and stuff.
What?
And like I thought I actually like I was very lucky I didn't pass out, to be honest. I think like it was really, 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 really sore. And like the first thing I done was to go up my phone to check if my hair was standing in my head, but that's not true at all. It doesn't stand in your head. So yeah,
Fuck.
interesting. So,
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah. So he taught me how to do it after that. It was kind of like he put it down to as one of those learning curves, I guess.
That's pretty steep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll keep that in mind when I'm playing with the TIG because I don't really feel like doing that to myself either.
Yeah, no, it actually felt really weird, man. Seriously.
Well, I'm glad you're still alive. I'm sure Mum would have flown back out here and kicked the shit out of Chopper, or come out and given him a high five. One of the two. Your mum would have done one of the two extremes, but
Yeah, probably be a high five.
so are you
any
interested
other
in doing more of that stuff then?
of what, welding?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's what I want to do. I want to have a shop that you build cars, and you can give me a car, and I'll build it. So
You're gonna be Daigo Saito.
yeah, just without the Daigo and the Saito and the money.
You might get there one day.
Yeah, my builds will definitely.
You're a better driver.
So I'm definitely a better driver.
Less dodgy.
Huh?
Less dodgy shit.
Oh yeah, like his driving is a little bit touchy these days.
Yeah. Oh, this is a discussion we actually had the other day, and while we have you, you're probably a good person to speak about it. I guess you've done a lot of S chassis driving, so it's probably not, you know, not the ideal person to ask. But jumping from chassis to from different car to different car, brand to brand, chassis to chassis. How do you feel like you can always drive at your peak if you were to be changing cars all the time, or do you feel like being in the same car or the same model of car, or at least the same sort of base setup, is sort of where you want to be to reach that consistent pinnacle?
I reckon if you were doing a full season, one car is obviously better. But I reckon if you were doing like 2 different seasons of 2 different championships, that like you should be able to drive whatever. Like if you're a good enough driver, you should be able to sit in, and like a drift car is a drift car. You should be able to do 3 or 4 laps and then be able to nail it, like, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, because we're looking at Daigo and thinking like he's had a few big accidents this year between the Corvette, the GTR, the Chaser, but he's driving. Yeah, I think he's got. We're talking about it, and he's got the Vet, he's got the 35, he's got 2 Chasers, he's got the D1 legal Chaser, and then he's got the 1000 Chaser that he drives in RDS. And then what was it? What was the other one? I'm pretty sure he's got something else. Oh, and then he's got the Lexus that he won FD in. And they're all 5 of those cars are really different to each other. And I was sort of throwing the idea up there that the accidents.
They're not really, because when somebody builds a car, you build it around the driver. He's obviously the driver. He's obviously the builder. So like he'd be making that the best he can to suit how he's going to drive it.
Yeah.
So he would have started on a Chaser, long wheelbase, heavy car, or 35, long wheelbase, heavy car, a Corvette, long wheelbase, a little bit lighter, like, but they're all kind of the same thing, you know. The G35, this thing, that's a heavy car. I think, as far as I'm sure, it's long as well. So like he's not stupid. Like building these cars, he knows exactly how to build them. Like he's got, like when he does a setup and all this, like when he's, like he'll make sure the cars are balanced all the same. Like he'll make sure that they all have the same setup. Obviously, like different tweaks will suit different cars, but like they shouldn't be impossible to drive. And he makes it look like they're impossible to drive. So
I feel we've had this conversation before, Greg.
No. I just think it's an interesting one to get out to people, because I think it's something you sort of don't think about. You sort of look at the car and you think, okay, that's the way a Corvette handles, or that's the way a Chaser handles. But yeah, you can make those changes to make.
Look at Matt Field with his Corvette. It's the exact same car as Daigo's.
Yeah.
Exact same. And he drives it pretty well.
And then he went and jumped in an 8.6 on the weekend and qualified number 1 at D1 in China and came second.
So like he's a good driver. You should be able to jump from car to car. You know?
Yeah, but Greg's point that he was pushing at the time was like, will you be actually at your peak? So like you can drive well in each car, and I said but so I think I've brought up pretty similar points I'm going to say to what you said. But one of the standouts with Daigo's car was the Lamborghini, where that was like it's fairly different. Like it's quite different compared to the other ones, where you can kind of like make it kind of similar.
Yeah, the Lamborghini probably would be one of the cars that I wouldn't be able to drive. You'd probably be able to drive it, but like you wouldn't be able to compete with it.
So that's the only one. But otherwise, it's his cars and his setup. He should be able to figure it out, just like you said. Like you can.
Luke reckons that a Lambo is easy to drive because he got to drive one before.
Anything that Luke drives is easy.
No, it's because Luke's driving it.
Luke just pointed out that his Lambo has Supra voice fab, so the geometry of the car would be something similar to the Chasers he was been driving since he started drifting.
Yeah, I just think that car was more lazy because I don't think it has as much power as his other cars.
Really grippy as well.
Really grippy?
Yeah, he said Saito told him that it's really, really grippy. So
yeah, that's how it looked at World Time Attack. It looked real lazy, like it didn't want to pump itself out onto angle, like it wanted to just hold that little bit of angle even though he was pinned. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think
It must
I think he was
be
being
months ago.
cautious without letting it spin, if that makes sense. Because you just imagine all that weight's on the back of the car, it'd be easy to let it
Yeah.
spin. So you'd be like sort of 70, 80% sort of pushing it and not leaving a bit of a margin.
Hmm. Yeah, like it's yeah. Obviously, where the weight is different. Like I've driven a Porsche before, like on a track day, and like I must say it was absolutely horrible to drive. Like it was horrible. Like the weight is behind you. Your braking points are completely different to where like you would brake in a normal car. Um, like trying to shift the weight is way harder. So maybe that is a bit of a difference. Like we're drifting, but I don't know. I still think with the caliber of driver people make him out to be, he should be better in it than what he is.
yeah. Tiger was just an easy example because he's got so many different. He's one of the
Yeah.
few drivers who's got like a big stable of different chassis. Where I look at a Matt Field, and if he's to jump back in the 14, that's where he learnt to drive. So you'd expect him to be, really good because that's, that was sort of his birthplace. But then him to go over and jump in the 8.6 and do really well over in China,
Yeah.
is a testament to that. But I think most drifters end up, chucking in a base setting to a car and then just sort of drive around their problems. Where when you start to talk at a much higher level and the sort of stuff that you're doing, it's you want the car to react consistently, and no matter what car you end up jumping into, you want it to sort of, you might like the car more floaty, or like you've said, you like a light car that's set up stiff so that you can drive it everywhere it needs to be driven rather than let the
Yeah.
car drive it itself out there. So I guess if you were to build anything, or depending on what your new AU ends up doing over in European Drift Masters, you're going to still set it up, try and set it up that same way, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
And I
It's
guess
like that's kind of the thing. It's like I have my setup and I know how a car should work, you know? So like I don't really see the point of trying to change that, like, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you jump in saying like the A86 where you don't have a huge amount of time to make changes, you've got a general feel of what you think it should be doing, and you base off that. But then you've sort of just got to drive around some of the problems, or some of the
Yeah,
differences to what you're not used to.
yeah, I think it wasn't really driving around problems, it was driving around differences. It was trying to make it
Yeah.
it was trying to make it as good as you could, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Rather than having the ability to make major setup changes to get it to drive the way you would want it to drive.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think but that's what I mean, like, you know, like I done my first 3 or 4 laps at one time like with the 8.6 and like they were bad. And then once I figured out like what the car was trying to do, I was able to do a lap. It wasn't perfect, but I was able to do a lap. And then to be fair, I was able to do a pretty good lap, like by the end of practice. Like
Yeah.
for a car that like should take definitely a day's driving to learn, you know. So
Yeah, and a fast track with only one transition. If you're not on the right spot, then you're not online. So,
yeah,
and yeah, asking a lot of the car, and yeah, Luke will sit there and say that the car's piss easy to drive, but the dude's a fucking nut. So of course
yeah.
he can do crazy things with
Yeah.
it. But definitely a testament to your skill level with you coming out here, and now you've come out in 2 different cars at 2 totally different styles of track, and
Yeah.
and one car was probably suited better for the opposite to each other. Like the 14 probably would have been better for that event, and the
Oh, I think
the
so.
A86. Oh yeah, because yeah,
The
I know. I
8.6
still,
Longer wheelbase was what I'm thinking. Because
yeah, you wouldn't have been running semis at Mount Gambier though, so it wouldn't have
Yeah.
been as fast as it was.
I reckon it still would have been the fastest car there.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Solid rear end and all that stuff.
No,
One of
pretty
South
good car.
Australian South Australian drivers asked if you'd keep an Aussie practice car for when you come down, but I don't think you need an Aussie practice car. I think people are more than happy to sort of chuck you the keys if they've got a big enough seat for you to fit in.
Yeah, that seems to be the problem. Yeah, no, like it would, if I could afford a practice car down here, I'd have one. But I can't afford a practice car at home, so it's
I
not
was
going to
gonna-
happen either.
And you're affording to even get to and from Australia. You've been lucky that your 2 trips have been funded,
Yeah.
so you've made the most of it while you've been down here. And hopefully we can keep getting you down here for more stuff, because this year it seemed like a second home for you. But hopefully,
Yeah.
I'm hoping personally we don't see your face for a few more years, because I'm hoping that the European Drift Masters thing's going to be going off so well that you're going to be busy doing all that. Maybe you get a little bit of time over the summer to come down next year for the new DCA season or something like that, but purely based off the fact that you've needed the downtime because everything's gone so well.
Yeah, hopefully.
Everything crossed. Everything crossed.
Yeah.
Any other things you want to bring up? You want to plug? You want to say anything? Likes, dislikes, any of that sort of stuff?
Nah.
He probably has the most sponsors out of everyone we've spoken to. And the most amount of media that he has to promote.
Thank you. ACL, thank you. And just want to say hey to everyone that's watching. Thanks for watching. I hope I wasn't boring. They understood me, all that kind of stuff.
No,
Yeah.
you definitely. Yeah, it was good to speak to you on a more serious sort of basis, and yeah, and yeah. Look, I'm definitely sitting here rooting for you for the future, and hope that plans fall in place, because you guys have definitely got your shit together, but it's just a matter of keep on pushing and pouring everything into it, and hopefully it'll pay off for you. And hopefully in 3 years' time there's a 3-car Waterhouse team and there's 2 Irish drivers in it, and you're one of them. At that stage,
Yeah.
I would fly over for Long Beach first round just to be there to write Jack Shanahan across my chest and stand there shirtless.
If I make it to FD, I won't use that deal.
No, I'm there. Like, this is like me going in the lake at Mount Gambier. Like, it'll happen.
No, it's going to happen.
Sweet.
I can't wait for it to happen.
Nah, I
Yeah.
hope so. I like, yeah, that would make me happy. So I'd be down for that. So yeah, look, honestly, all I can say is thank you to IDC and DCA for meeting you the first time, and thank you to Ian Baker and all those guys who made that happen this time. I don't think you realize. I think you probably do realize the impact that you've had on the Aussie drift scene for the time that you've spent here. Like, so many people purely coming out to see you guys, showing up to things like Mount Gambier just to see you, and just wanting to drive with you. So no, definitely cool opportunity.
I hope that, like, what I've talked about today actually makes people understand what drifting is more and all that kind of stuff as well, and that having fun is most important. And if you feel like you're wasting money, it's like, don't waste money and just drift and have fun. So yeah.
So what you're saying is keep drifting fun. Sounds like a common Irish thing.
Yeah, but like, it is like, it's kind of just, if you feel like you're wasting your time or wasting somebody else's time by doing something stupid, don't do something stupid and start making use of your time by making yourself a better driver, so you can go back and prove that guy wrong and then make use of his time, you know? So
Yep, EG's good at offending people, so
yeah, but I think that's what the problem is about this day and age, is that people are too afraid to tell somebody they're not good. You know, it's like, if you keep getting told you're good at something, and if you're bad, you're never going to get good. As where if you're bad at something, you get told you're bad, then you will ask, how do I get better? and then they'll tell you.
No, but they don't. They get upset and then they whinge
Yeah, but then
and
that's
say,
because
and then say, at least we were trying.
yeah, but it's called being it's called manning up, like, you know, like take it like a man, take it like a champ, you know. Like anytime somebody has ever told me something bad about me, I'm like, I appreciate you, sound, you know. Like there's no point. Like if you get upset over somebody's opinion, you shouldn't ever ask for an opinion ever, because
No,
usually when you ask for somebody's
they
opinion,
weren't asking
they're
AG, they weren't asking AG for an opinion. AG was just chucking opinions.
Ah,
Yeah,
but they
well, that's
weren't
okay too.
looking for it though, because it was only
Yeah,
on
but
my
they did go
personal video.
looking for it.
It was on my personal page, so yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's just yeah.
So you've
Just-
heard it. You've heard it here. One of the best drivers in the world, who's won one of the biggest series in the world, has said, "Take criticism and use it as a driving force to get better." Simple as
not
that.
even the drifting.
No, yeah, just in life.
Anything in life, just criticism makes you better. Or make you famous, and criticism makes you better. So
I think
make
people,
people hate.
yeah, if they're naturally driven, then they'll take that criticism and they'll say, "I'm going to prove this guy wrong next time," or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm going to show him he's wrong. Yeah.
Look, if you're going to take criticism to heart, and if you're going to have a cry about it, you shouldn't be a drifter. It's as simple as that. And if you're going to, like, even in editing, if you're going to take it to heart, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. Because when you try to go to that next level, somebody's going to tell you you're not ready. Because you always aim high too soon. And someone's going to, like, and if you can't take that and be like, oh, okay, it's time to go back and try again. If you can't do that, you may as well just not do anything. You know? Just go and live a boring life like everybody else. Go to college, go and get your wage, and just live like a king. So, yeah, I don't know. Just be yourself and accept whatever anybody else ever says to you, and do not ever react to what someone says. Just be like, yep, cool. And you'll be right.
This 19-year-old kid speaks like an old man.
I know,
think we
he's
should
got
snip
so
this
much
whole-
wisdom.
this-
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should definitely snip this whole last section out of this interview and then have that as just like a 2-minute spiel that's pinned at the top of the page for a while, and hopefully some people take some value from it.
I don't mind. EG looks fascinated.
No, it's good. I like it. No, I like this guy. He's really good.
Yeah.
We need more Jack Shanahans.
Oh, yeah, 1,000%. Maybe without the hangriness, but you know. Do you go to Hungry Jack's much?
Me, I've never had Hungry Jack.
You've never been to Hungry Jack's, but you are Hungry Jack.
Angus Burger's good. I like the Angus Burgers there. They've got a vegan burger too if you're vegan. If you turn vegan.
Luke, I don't think he's selective. I think it's vegan or eat it. I don't think it stops him. But Luke, you've got to take him to Hungry Jack's. Can somebody? Can one of you guys in Queensland please take him to a Hungry Jack's and just get a picture of Jack out the front of Hungry Jack's?
I'm actually really fussy with food.
Go again. I didn't hear any of that.
I said I'm actually really fussy with food.
Yeah, I know. But if you eat a cheeseburger, you'll get a cheeseburger at Hungry Jack's.
I might have to go for a cheeseburger. I won't go out of worry.
We should stop talking about it.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry.
All right. So before Jack gets too hangry, we'll wrap this one up. So next week, unless Solly changes the plans again, President of Drifting South Australia, Michael Solomon, will be on to speak about their new series going on down in South Australia. And yeah, that should be interesting. Hopefully there's more details and he's able to give us as much as he can. There's lots of exciting things going on in the background, and the Peregrine Group is doing a big, just happy to put some money behind it all at this stage. So hopefully he's able to come on and speak about that next week. And then we're not sure what we've got planned for the week after that. But at some stage, we might get this guy back on and see what he thought of. Maybe once he's back over in Ireland and settled again, we'll hear about once he get announced the car, and we'll hear what his thoughts on Super Matsuri and Coffs Harbour. And yeah, so thanks for listening. Thank you, Jack, so much for coming on.
Thank you.
I know you were nervous to start with, but you've been great. You speak
really?
well.
I couldn't tell he was nervous. He was so natural. It was awesome. He was good.
I think
I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect.
yeah. That is anybody who ends up coming on, it's just a talk shit session. Once you're in it, it's easy. And yeah, like thanks so much. I hope you enjoy the last couple of weeks of being here. Chopper, please don't let him get electrocuted and die. It just gets messy at that stage. And yeah, so we'll catch you guys next week.
Hopefully.
Anything else?
With Michael.
All good?
Yep, all good. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you guys.
Okay.
Don't have to hang up just yet.
Is he going to do it? Hang on. All right. I'm going to stop the stream.
Yeah, I'll stop my stream.